Arrendor is on the brink of upheaval. For centuries, the clan struggled against giants until 400 years ago, new dragons crossed the Great Sea, forcing them to unite and build the 10 Bastions. As the threat faded, the clans fractured into the 10 Kingdoms, and all but the last Bastion were abandoned. As ancient calamities stir and darkness rises in the east, my 4 champions must rise up to unite the kingdoms, restore the Bastions, uncover their secrets, and stand against this darkness as a declaration of war.
Calagon Dör. I will discover the secrets of my lineage and cement my legacy as one of the greatest adventurers of all time.
Cleave still in here. The migration of the dragons forced the migration of peoples and beasts, which brings death. We're all invasive species now. I won't let us become extinct ones.
The name's Rodrick Elwood, the voice of this generation, and the greatest performer in lore. Oh, and you should see me with a bow.
And I, Arlyn Dursalai, searching for my father's sword Trident, to bring justice to these lands. Together, we are the 4 Horsemen.
And this is Divine Inspiration.
Hi there, beautiful people.
Yeah, dude. Hagarashi. You ever seen it?
Well, I guess it's I guess it's movie time over here. More exciting news. Welcome back, Javi. Great to have you again this week. We got our producer in house out here killing it. So things hopefully will run smoothly. I was rewatching last week's episode. There may have been a funny moment or two in there.
Like when my face randomly showed up out of nowhere.
David's face randomly popping up with a Google search bar. I was like, oh, that's different. But hey, if you guys want to keep it exciting, be sure to keep following along, as we always do some fun stuff, whether intentionally or not. There you go.
I love you, amen. Oh man, I forgot to retitle that.
I did. I went through. I retitled the last like 3 episodes.
Really?
Just
Did you?
before coming over here, so of course, yeah. I love you, amen. Had to hit.
Snap. Cool.
I literally made a note on my way back from work. So luckily, that is the last in our announcements. Is that the titles are up to date, and I love you, amen is official, as that is a piece of my favorite lore now.
I love you.
Previously, with Calagon having been the one on the outside of the ziggurat, as the rest of the horsemen were facing their trials, we saw as one after the next, people continued through them, with one exception, as unfortunately Arlyn has since been booted, with no seeming way to get back in with the rest of his allies. Calagon, having made his way inside, was able to conquer the water trial, while Cleave was able to not only overcome the ether trial with items to spare, but he was able to absolutely decimate every stone golem in his path with little to no friction whatsoever, and yet still a whole lot of heat as he burnt them to the ground. And so, dropping down below, Cleave now gets to meet up with Rodrick and his best friend Calagon as Arlyn. As you sit outside of this door, you recognize that you are unfortunately not able to find re-entry. Instantly, you recognize that unless somebody else is to fail, you may very well be stuck on the outside of this bastion. Hope's ruined, and nothing to do but potentially wait. In this time, what would you like to be doing?
So, in my understanding, I'm outside, and I know that, or I think that if you fail,
you'll reappear out here because I've done it twice. And so I know Calagon went in, and that's the only trial that I'm allowed to enter now.
Do any of the other trials show like a plume of smoke, like how the fire trial did, to show that it was finished?
Nothing just yet.
Yeah. Well, nothing just yet, because I wouldn't know.
He had seen from
I was
fire
out
previously,
in
but
a different time.
nothing
basically.
other than the one trial.
So I'm out, and I'm...
It's 'cause I
How many
was
good
past
berries
the
was it that you gave me? Like 4?
Wait.
It was like 3 or 4.
Well, I made 10 total.
Yeah.
You probably got the bigger portion.
Yeah. And I don't remember
I think
how
I only
many
saved
I had.
like 1 or 2 for myself, so you would have had 3 or 4.
Okay.
I want to say you had 3.
Okay, so I'm gonna be sitting on those big
'Cause you have
steps
healing.
there.
Nice.
Actually,
dangling.
where's the water trial?
That's gonna be on the left side.
I would have made my way around to
Okay.
the water trial entrance
Nice.
to wait for Calagon, just in case. And I'm sitting there. Oh, I was moving at the same time as you.
That's funny.
So I would have.
Making my way around, walking
I would have been sitting there and eating my good berries one by one, just like trying to take in the fact that I failed both of the trials that I was meant to pass.
Does he hear any whispers like calling him a loser and stuff?
Not yet. Rodrick hasn't gotten out of the bastion yet, so until then.
So I sit there, and there's nothing to do but wait, really.
Okay.
But I am just. I would say I'm cleaning up my sword and kind of beating myself up mentally
Okay.
about my failure. I already assume that Rodrick passed his trial because of what we saw. And I'm just waiting for another sign to see if they passed or not. Because the only other chance I have would be the water trial.
After a good few hours pass, you recognize that there is a weird shifting going on around you.
Hmm.
And as you look down into the sands at the base of the ziggurat, you can see that there's some form of swelling occurring. And that the ground is almost starting to rise slowly
Rise.
and lower.
So it goes up and down?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not
And
like
as it starts
a drowning.
rising again,
He's breathing.
it starts raising to the point where you watch as after a few minutes, kind of tracking just by sight, you see as it eventually starts rising to the point of getting about halfway up that first stair, which again, each is about table height.
Maybe that is the giant beast snake, or I don't know. I definitely grip my shield and hold my sword to my side as I'm watching this happen, just in case anything were to happen or pop up.
Okay.
Wonder how they're doing in there.
It does continue steadily over time as you just kind of sit by, looking on, to rise. And one stair after the next, you watch as it steadily climbs.
Oh no. I don't know. Maybe it's not wise to be in one of the lower levels at this point. So what do I see? I'm gonna look. Well, I can't see it from this point, I'm assuming. The entrance?
The entrance from where you're at, right? Yeah, that would be very difficult. You can see where the stairs kind of like. You get an idea of where the stairs are generally, but you're still walled off largely, and so like you can get a general sense of like, okay, this is how far out, you know. But as far as actual visual, nothing.
Yeah, I wanted to get. I wanted to see at least the entryway to see if the pyramid is sinking or if the sand is rising in a way. Okay. So I'm going to carefully. I can't go up this way, right? Those are like walls.
Those are very high walls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very high walls.
I'm going to carefully trek, and I'm going to place my sword on the ground, like the tip of my sword on the ground first.
Smart. Pushing it in, you not only see as it kind of starts vanishing a little more easily, but you pull back, feeling now the difference in mass as far as what you'd previously felt. It doesn't feel like regular sand anymore, rather, it's much more similar to quicksand.
Oh no.
And as you lift your blade, you can see just droplets of water, with a thin layer of frost climbing your sword for a moment, as it starts to fade as it's being held outside the water.
Oh, this is not a great idea. I should have stayed up top. I can't even go into lightning.
Right.
I'm going to cast Divine Sense.
Okay.
Or Dragon Sense, I guess.
There are no beings of what you can tell within immediate range.
Okay.
And as you watch, you can see now where the sands continually shift slightly back and forth. And eventually, they start to subside again, slowly lowering. Over the course of maybe 10 minutes, you can really start to see where there is a slight trailing of some of these sands still along the still wet walls of the ziggurat. And yet, it would probably take a few hours for it to go all the way back down from where it was, based on your
So it is
current span.
lowering.
It is lowering.
Okay. Okay, well, that's a relief. I'm gonna try and poke the sand again with my sword and see if the consistency has changed, if it's walkable.
Okay. About how long would you wait before doing so?
I would say however long it would take, if I notice that it's sinking and it's going back down, however long it would take to get back to its original place.
Okay. So
And would I be able to get a
it would
short
probably
rest
be
if it's
about
that long?
yeah, it would be about midday by the time this even occurs. So after polishing your sword and waiting around to see if somebody would finally exit the trials, it seems like these guys are in here for a long time now, before this even begins to occur.
Okay.
And as you wait now, just kind of continuing your works and just sitting in meditation for a time, the sands continually shift lower and lower, and you recognize that the sun has not only already peaked in the sky, but has now started to fall again.
Wow.
And as your day is just kind of
Past 8 hours, can I get a long rest? Of
wasting
just
away
sitting
here, you can definitely rest. This is definitely a time of rest. I would say for the sake of actual rulings,
I'm not actually sleeping, so...
yeah. Yeah, so it is... No, in theory, it should still follow the criteria. So I would say you could long rest within that time.
Amazing. Great. Okay. Cool.
So, as you kind of wait it out and look onward, there's a point at which you start waiting and seeing to watch the drop, and going back down and dipping your sword back in. As it gets fairly low, placing it back once more, there's this thud, almost right as your sword impacts the sands, and you can feel again, almost like a heartbeat, this dum, dum, as now energy pulses all around you, causing your own weight to shift. And you can feel now where your sword in the sand gets caught at its tip. And you recognize a very quiet trickling of water pouring through as the sands themselves are stabilized, floating in the air where they're at, where the water had previously been.
So I can't pull my sword out?
There is a moment where it kind of locks in, but otherwise you had shifted the sand so that there is still kind of, as long as you go straight back, you recognize, like, okay, those are staying in place.
Yeah. I'm gonna carefully place a foot on top.
Okay.
And see if it's sturdy ground.
As you press down, it's a little weird to walk on, given the fact that there's a lot of spaces between sands, but otherwise, it seems to be holding you afloat.
Okay. Well, I'm going to very carefully and slowly make my way, watching my step very carefully, make my way up to the main staircase.
Okay. Cool. And you can do so with relative ease. There's no major issues as you traverse. And you just start walking on, and eventually, sure enough, you reach the main stairwell. But you recognize that time continues to pass.
Yeah.
And while there are signs of hope, it seems to be taking significantly longer than what you'd expected.
Well, very well. I suppose they passed their trials. All I can do is wait.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna rise up to the center room and check the ether portal.
Alright. Placing your hand back at the base, you kind of push down and hope to see some sort of response, yet nothing.
No changes or anything? Nothing?
No changes to anything around you that you can see visibly within this time.
Cool.
Everything is exactly as it was.
Alright,
So,
well.
that's where you're going to be resting up?
Yes.
Waiting?
At the tip of the pyramid. At least the highest point that I can reach.
Okay.
And I will sit here and wait and rest.
Okay. Then, as night comes, you recognize that this is definitely going to be your place of rest for some time. And with that, we're going to pick back up inside. Oh yeah. Yeah. The ziggurat is still pretty grand, but the walls of like the canyon surrounding it, massive. Alrighty. Well then. Calagon. With your feet now wet, you can feel that this kind of tunnel system dropped you into the smaller puddle, but lightly, to the point where it's almost as though the twists and turns kind of carved out a simple slowing path for you, so that upon entry, you would be safe. Clearly, carefully crafted, this entire place is very unique, and you can feel the moisture as it starts to slowly climb your robe. And yet, with that, remind me, are you wearing your mask? You've never put your mask on? Okay. Cool. All right.
It's up to you.
I don't remember you putting it on, to be honest.
Yeah, so currently, everything around you seems to be emanating light from the actual water itself as a source of water, very similar to a place that you had been once before. And yet, within the water itself, you can see just below your feet there is a large, rounded blue, almost like gemstone at your feet. And with it, you can see that that seems to be the main source of light that is kind of emanating this dull glow and helping to kind of reflect through the water elsewhere. With that, Rodrick, did you have your mask on?
Of course I do.
Okay. And Cleave, as I recall, you had the mask of the ant.
Yes.
Very good. Well then. As each of you stands here in your corresponding alcoves, each with a color that is very, very much a call to the elements of your trials. There are words inscribed within these kind of circular platforms that each of you is standing on. Each of them identical. It says, while the elements are each a threat, they can be both a refuge and a throne. Rest in them, and they will aid you. Use them to your advantage, and you will conquer. And as you all stand here pondering, Calagon's voice begins to echo through the chamber. Calagon, you yourself hear this from you yourself jumping down previously. A repeat of the words that you had spoken at the top of that tunnel, saying, well, here we go. And it's as though the events are replaying, as you can now hear drastically later than what you had actually encountered in person, the sounds of a person speaking, sliding down the tunnel, landing, and it's almost like you hear a repeat of your words, of your landing in the water, and of every single movement that you've made up until this point. As you continue to question this, looking onward, the sound itself seems to slowly just get eaten away. And everything goes completely silent to the point where even the slightest drips coming down from your robe and the movement within your own feet make no sound. And
So I
yet,
try to kick water and no sound.
kicking, nothing. And instead, you hear these heavy thuds.
Oh.
And it is identical to something that you've heard before, and specifically, very recently. Yet, it's not the thing that appears at the forefront, as instead, you all see, floating toward the center of the room between you, a swirling mass of earth and light. Cleave, you undoubtedly recognize this, as this is the thing that you'd not only just fought, but recently conquered. An elemental, but much larger than what you'd previously seen. And as those footprints, those footsteps get louder, Calagon, Cleave, you hear that it's coming from between the two of you guys. As now, it eventually reaches towards the middle, and yet you can see as this ether elemental puts its hand out forward, and the earth elemental comes flying towards it, crumbling to pieces, and slowly surrounding its form. as very much like it soon after, Rodrick, you're met with a new sight.
Oh, goodness.
Something visually unique yet similar to the form of the salamander that you'd previously encountered within this statue. And it's almost as though that statue had a spirit that helped it to move back out of your way. And as you look on, this had to have been it. As now, the earth crumbling into this formless mass starts to melt away, and you can see as the earth instead becomes molten hot and begins to glow, and yet with it you see a shower of rain flying in sideways.
No, but I was gonna say, before any other elementals come out, I'm sprinting. I'm monkey sprinting on all fours down this corridor.
Okay. Well, then as you do so, I would like for each of you guys to go ahead and roll initiative.
Oh, man.
If I heard Calagon's voice already, you said I heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's no way I'm letting
You
this
were
just,
technically the last to arrive,
Okay.
One.
but you would have heard it.
Shoot.
That's
I got
crazy.
A 9.
I thought we were just gonna be talking when we got down here.
That's crazy.
You said
So
9?
Yeah.
Technically, it's a 4 for me.
At 11.
Nice.
Okay.
It's okay. Get the bad rolls out now, David. We're going to need them here.
You guys got
Oh
no
wait, I'm
tank.
sorry. A 12. I'm currently an ape.
Oh, roll the 20.
I rolled a 19 and then I rolled a 1.
You follow me?
You'll waste
And
them.
now I rolled a 20.
As now
And
this
now 19.
molten mass starts to take shape, it's as though it's starting to drip and lose its own form. And Cleave, as it starts to turn, it's immediately turning your way, with you being the first one charging its direction. You can see as this rain comes at it from its back, and as it starts coming across it, it's this unusual appearance of molten magma on the front end and slowly hardening, as though creating obsidian armor around it, plating out at the joints where you can see these heavy shoulders start to inlay. And one after the next, each of these elementals begins to fade from their actual original form, and instead, taking their place, you can see this unique amalgamation of all four standing upright as though humanoid. A faceless mass. No mask like what you'd seen before. Instead, it's just light making up these eyes, as now the purple eye slits, if you will, look onward at you, Cleave. And in one quick motion, the fingers all curl into fist, and as it stretches out, you can see now where all of the elements just get snuffed out. And before you is much, much more similar to the ether elemental that you'd previously faced, with more substance. And yet, as it reaches its hand out towards you, you can see that other elements begin to flicker and shoot off from around it. And in its frustration, looking your way, you can see actual expression this time, as now it turns its hand and pulls a series of rocks, all in a flurry, and you can see as sand now starts pouring in towards it, and with it, Rodrick.
He pulls Rod.
I would like for you to make a strength saving throw for me.
It's like my worst.
Does the mask give you any boost?
11?
11.
I
Okay.
think so.
Well then, as you stand there still taking in what's going on around you, you of course can see all of this happening in the center room. You watch as this creature turns almost away from you for a moment, and with one hand reaching out to you, you feel your entire body start to get pulled along with all the rocks from the walls as they start to crumble. And like the hammer to a certain Marvel character, Rodrick, you can feel your entire form just get sucked in as this creature is going to grab and throw Rodrick Elwood at you, Cleave. I would like for you to make a dexterity saving
Is that
throw.
considered a melee attack to me? To grab and throw me?
Sounds like
I would say technically yes.
He would take fire damage equal to my proficiency bonus.
Okay.
So 2.
Solid.
So 2 fire damage.
Okay. That was a beautiful start already. As you fly towards it, you see as it now starts to burn in its grip, and immediately you watch as it shifts its shoulder, and you can see as now fire starts to leak out as though it's bleeding off from the shoulder and slowly starting to ignite the one arm and goes fully ablaze as it now holds you. And you can see now it starts turning its head and just lobbing you. Joel, there is a massive fireball coming your way in the form of your friend Rodrick Elwood.
And I've just rolled a natural 1.
Oh no.
Hold up, there was a monologue for a while now. I've been meaning to ask for some time.
Yeah, what you got?
Did my gravity rocks land down here next to me? I would have definitely taken
No.
one with me. Oh, okay.
So if you remember, those didn't follow you to the last
can
trial
I-
already.
I assume they landed here, but
Hey,
yeah.
he chucked me, right?
Correct.
Can I cast Featherfall as a reaction to slow down my speed on my way to him?
100%
I cast
you can.
Featherfall.
That's dope. That's super dope. I like
As
that.
now flying your way,
That's
you watch
awesome.
as Rodrick slows his movement and eventually catching his feet on the ground and slowly kind of pressing himself against you for just a brief moment as he's like getting closer. You would know that you would burn him on actual impact. Feel free to do whatever you may to try to avoid that.
To try to avoid burning him?
But otherwise, yeah, you recognize you're definitely about to hit him, and he's not moving out of the way for some reason.
Okay. I would like to, the second that I touch him, cast resistance on him for fire damage.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Then with that, specifically, I say this because Rodrick, it is your turn first. So, would that be?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to be safe. Then
So I'll literally be slowing myself down, and then, like, as I'm getting close to him, the second I touch him with the fire, I'm going to cast resistance at the same moment. So he becomes resistant to fire damage at that point.
very cool. Okay, you can see this kind of larger, grander appearance of what you can see is still the clothing underneath of Rodrick, and yet trying to stop, there's this moment of dragging feet and kicking down into the ground with one heel. He rapidly spins around and reaches an arm out to touch you, and in that moment you can feel the warmth as it starts to burn away at you, and yet there's this brief moment where it does still start to singe and yet calms you. You do gain resistance.
So it would
Because
be
of the throw, you would still hit.
Yeah, it'd be
So-
subtracting a d4 from whatever the damage would be.
Fantastic. So, what would the damage be as per your mask?
Per my mask. Oh, because it'd be me hitting him.
Yeah. So it'd be you touching him, in the same formatting there. You wouldn't take any falling damage from being thrown, but it would still be him taking any fire damage from having to forcefully impact you.
So I don't know. The mask doesn't give him fire damage for me touching him.
Oh, does it not? Okay.
It does not.
Oh, that's great then.
Is this magical fire or just regular fire?
It's certainly not regular.
Okay.
This is definitely not like a natural
Just
anything.
curious, 'cause
So
I haven't.
yeah, what it would be, it
Okay.
would be is whatever the fire he covered me in. I
Okay.
I won't get hurt by that fire from the elemental.
right.
But he will get hurt by the fire that I'm covered in.
All right, no, then easy enough. You do regularly maintain an appearance that is almost like fire. So when he sparks off, just throwing you, it would be similar in appearance. Then, but otherwise, you should be good. So let me see. Oh no, there it is. It says when you're hit by a melee attack while you have your temporary hit points, the attacker takes fire damage equal to your proficiency bonus.
Correct, that's why he took the damage.
That's what it would be. Okay, so then it would be that minus a d4. Your proficiency is what currently? 2.
So 2 minus
a d4. Let's see what you got.
1.
So
okay,
you take
1 point of fire damage.
It's the only.
You're also
the only option to take damage.
Yeah, because the okay, yeah, you're good.
But all right, it's okay.
2 1s in a row right now.
I know, unreal.
That is tough. Calagon, you do get to see this, and this form is clearly monstrous, but taking in your surroundings, obviously, from the center of this chamber, the elemental just starts barreling headlong into one of these separate alcoves, and as you watch it run on, you now recognize that it's pulled with it Rodrick, flung it, and now started to chase, and it's going to continue in that way, as it's going to now instead, for its official turn, second, for a moment here.
I know.
Actually, no, I take that back. Forgive me. It starts kind of reaching out, and you can feel now this slight pull on your body. Cleave, you are now up.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, man, did I
So
get my
he
turn
threw
already?
Rodrick, and then he put his arm towards me.
Yeah,
and
so
then
you
I
can see
feel a pull.
where he sucked in Rodrick,
Okay.
and you can feel now as he starts running forward, he starts putting out his other arm, and you can feel this pull coming towards you.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Cleave, you're up.
So is this my first turn? But when I had run however far I ran, that's what started initiative. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly right.
All right. So, wow. Roderick's here. This changed what I was gonna do. Let me see. Okay, one of those. I am going. I'm gonna run up past Rodrick and take the front and center situation here. Let's see how far I can go up. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Right about. That's too close. How close is that? Is that 5? Let me go. I'll do one of those. Yeah. Can I see into any other alcoves from here? I'm trying to give myself the best view.
From where you're at, yes, absolutely. So let me release just a little bit of that for you. You would obviously be able to see directly to the left and right of you from where you're at. There's a bit more going on. But you would get a clear visual at some point of each and every one of the 4 surrounding you, as well as the fact that there are both north and southward chambers within here.
Oh, I had done my turn, right?
Yes,
Is
that
that-
was kind of a prep turn just like he had,
Okay.
so you will otherwise be 4th in initiative.
Okay. Because I was gonna put Hunter's Mark on him as a bonus action.
Okay, so yeah, that can still be done, I'll say, since it was technically a turn, just
Okay.
like he was just full dash.
I'll go right up to him. I don't know why I would make the difference, because all I've got right now in ape form is melee anyway. So I'll come right up on him, and I'll just start swinging with my sad ability with this sword.
Very cool, alright.
My non-proficient swings.
I forgot that you're horrifying looking right now. Rodrick, this is a weird battle of monsters before your eyes. It's a very strange ordeal. The sounds similar to the weird things that you've heard in life before, but the visuals, nothing like anything you've ever seen.
So, the second that I see Cleave when I get thrown, I'm gonna like have a glimpse back to that memory when the monkey tried to kill me for taking his banana.
Forgot about the bad memories.
In my head, I'm just gonna be like, so like a little bit of fear of the fact that there's a monster and the monkey finally that's been haunting me for all these years has come back to retake his banana.
I just picture Family Guy, the monkey in the closet.
Yo, can I make a case at all? I won't push it too hard, but for having reach as an orangutan with a sword.
Like 10 foot instead of 5?
Honestly, I do enjoy the concept.
I like it.
But I did also say that this was somewhere between a long and a short sword, so it is actually a lot shorter than a traditional long sword.
All right,
So it barely meets
Fair
that
enough.
criteria.
Fair enough.
Does kind of counterbalance.
All right.
Yeah, 5 foot arms with a long sword is kind of scary.
Yeah, that is horrifying. All right, sorry, forgive me. What were you actually doing on your turn?
So I'm gonna swing at it with this long this medium sword.
Yeah, hit it.
Okay. All right. I am not
Not
proficient, but I
proficient.
have a plus, I believe, 3 strength. Where'd it go? Yes. So that's gonna be a 15 to hit.
Okay.
It's kind of pretty medium.
Swinging on it, there's this moment where it reaches its arm out, and as it looks down, you can see its entire arm just kind of collapses to avoid your swing, and just barely getting close enough, you still are able to just scrape along its sides.
Okay.
And go ahead and roll for damage.
Okay, yes!
Nice.
All right, let's go. Wait, what does this thing even do? Let me see. Okay.
How tall is it?
About 20 feet tall.
You still have movement, right, Cleave?
No, that was it.
Yeah, his
I
long
went right up to it.
Oh, you used
orangutan
all your
arms
movement?
just scraping
Yeah.
down on this thing's sides.
They're the only
But it
ones
is
that
I
have
thought you moved
not
only
a
20
20 because you were
I
right
came
behind me.
immediately from my
I went
trial
to-
to this,
Right.
so I'm still pretty damaged.
So I was right behind you.
I ate all my good berries.
I was gonna say,
and everything.
Rodrick just didn't get hurt
Yeah, it's
during
about
his
30.
trial.
Yeah, are you able to see the
That's all
He had a
it
lot
is.
more
ruler tool on
time
your
though,
screen?
didn't he?
Huh?
Are you able to see my
Not
ruler tool on your screen?
Oh, I was counting the squares.
Time is relative.
25. 30.
It is a magical fire,
So,
though, right?
yeah, I think
We've
that's
established
about
that. Okay, great.
That's for sure.
I got a D8.
Can't
Let's see what-
use that.
Rolled an 8 on a D8. That's an 11. 11 slashing damage. Dang, that's my first success with this thing.
Okay.
I'm like, "Wah!"
And scraping down along its sides, you can see now where some of the chunks of kind of rock-like material starts to chip away and spark. And as you slide down, it's almost like this creature is slowly condensing further and further. And as you scrape away at its form, it actually continues condensing until eventually you see it even change color from black to a much earthier brown, blending in with the
Okay.
ground below you.
Weird. I think that's all I got, though.
Okay. Then with that, Calagon, you're up.
Well, I see all this craziness take place in front of me, but it's not until I see Cleave, in
You
which
see Ant Orangutan.
I
think I
know
still have
I
my
know
armor on
Cleave
the
when I see
crazy
him.
sword.
I know Cleave when I see him. That I'm going to look down at this mask, put it on, and run towards the. Let's see how far. Run towards this elemental. That's already kind of
Cool.
dragging me. Pretty much right
Be able to get around this block here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay. You are
And-
currently about 30 feet away from it.
Yeah. All right, and then I'm just gonna go with it. Magic missile level 2.
Let's go.
Nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do gain 10 temporary hit points. All right. Leave my friend alone. Ah.
Okay.
And is there any like physical part of him? Like I know it's like a amalgamation of different elements. Is there any like a physical being like? Because I see ether, I see fire, and I see earth.
currently it is almost entirely just earth.
Okay, so then I'm going dead center,
Nice.
right at him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 points of damage.
Let's go.
Towards this
Let's go.
dude. That's a level 2
right.
magic missile with 3 4s
Okay.
and a 3.
Dang, that was a good roll.
That was the best roll I've had on magic missile.
Okay.
But does it do anything?
Just bolt after bolt just firing into him. You can see as now chunks start to fly, and there's this moment of anger as this thing clearly looks to you and clenching its fist once more, just almost like it's flexing, just starts to melt away the earth and rock as it starts to almost look volcanic in nature. And you can see now fire start to erupt and rise from it with smoke all around, and it clearly changes its focus to now fully looking your way, Calagon.
Perfect.
At which point it's going to take its turn entirely ablaze. I would like for you to make a dexterity saving throw.
I just feel like it's not good. Come on, let's give this guy what for? 21.
21.
Okay.
21.
Well then, being that you do pass, you only take 3 points of fire damage, as now this thing whips its arm around and releases a massive line of fire that goes all the way to the end of the hallway that you're standing in.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm one with water. Fire shouldn't hurt me. But that hurt.
And it now starts walking a little bit closer
Ooh.
towards you, but not quite out of the range of Cleave.
Dang it.
Rodrick, your
Okay.
turn, sir.
Bear with me. I'm gonna look around, see the chaos that's happening, and I'm going to feel on my body and find my potion of poison.
Okay.
With a bonus action, can I put that potion on an arrow?
Yes.
take an
Yeah,
arrow,
I'd say
like-
reasonably it should work.
Okay.
Let's go, Roger.
Will this even work?
Will this work? You don't know until you do it.
I am casting inspiration for the dice to hit it and have it completely ingest the entire potion of poison.
Okay, so you're saying you have a point of inspiration?
Yes.
And you're just
Yeah.
going to go
He's
for
been
advantage on
holding
I
that?
am going to
He
go
wants
for
to
the
go for a whimsy.
for whimsy.
Okay. Of poison. Very fun.
You got a mask and a jester's hat.
You said for
look
whimsy.
as amazing as me right now.
How do you ask it?
Bunch of fools.
I'm going to ask.
I picture my mask being like far away from my face because I have a snout. So it's my mask is like out here.
If I strike,
resting sideways.
if I strike this elemental with the poison, will it be fully consumed by it?
Okay. Joel, do you still have the whimsy dice at the ready?
Wait, actually, you have one. You want to use that, or is that?
Yeah, it's us. Yeah, it's
Alright.
us.
Okay, so do I roll to hit first?
First, go ahead and roll your whimsy.
So would I roll still at advantage, right? Because I'm using the inspiration? Or would I roll the
no,
whimsy
so
dice?
you just roll that die instead, I believe,
just roll the
based on the
whimsy dice?
ruling. Yeah.
Come on.
Lie. Just lie.
Most likely.
Let's go! Okay.
Whoa.
That
We're having
wasn't
some
a
success
lie.
down here.
By the way, this potion of poison is very powerful.
Okay. Then
3d6 poison damage. Needs to succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw, and every time it succeeds, it just drops it by 1d6 poison. But it takes the poison damage at every turn.
Nice.
Wow.
firing off, you see as now this kind of greenish splatter just spews spiraling out from the arrow with it, and you just kind of last minute whip your arm around this corner just to fire off at this thing, and it's almost as though you see licks of fire shoot out to create a curved smile as the arrow just flies right through its form.
It had turned into a fire
And as it
elemental.
turns towards you, you watch now as just there are these little flickers of color, of spark, as the reddish flame just ignites green for a brief moment.
Whoa.
How much damage is that going to be?
Let's see, I have no
Oh,
idea. It's working or
Let's
not.
go.
So I'm assuming it's gonna take my damage from my arrow, right?
It will still, yes.
Okay.
Actually, let me double check. From no, it would not.
No, what about from my hunter
Oh,
strike?
I'm sorry. No, it would
Hunter's
still. It
mark.
only has resistance there, and you do have Hunter's Mark, so it would still take both damages.
Okay,
So
so
just
it's
tell me
gonna
one
take-
at a time.
Okay. So 4 damage for the actual hit.
Okay.
My hunter's mark damage is 5.
And that's of the primary type, right?
Yes, it should be.
Okay. Cool. And then of the poison.
Force damage is hunter's mark. It says.
Ah, okay.
And then for the poison, it's gonna be 3d6 poison.
So how much did you say it was on the force damage?
Force damage is 5.
Okay.
And then for poison, 11 poison damage.
Wow.
Let's go.
And
Okay.
you need to do a Constitution saving throw.
Oh yeah, it failed.
It failed. Then it's gonna take the poison damage. And on its next one.
Oh,
This is
is awesome.
This potion of poison. That's why I had to use the dice on it, because if I get it, it was gonna start taking hella damage every turn.
how many more potions do you have? You have a
That was
bunch,
my
right?
So-
only potion of poison.
Only when it
No, but you have
fails
more
does it
potions.
continue to take that.
If it fails, it takes all 3. If it passes, it takes 2, and it has to pass again, and then take 1, and then it has to pass again, and then it negates it.
Okay.
So it drops 1d6 every time it passes.
So it has to pass 3 times
Until
to
zero.
take 0 damage.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's super OP, dude.
So for
That's
3
awesome.
turns at least.
It's super OP.
So, as everything flies past, you can see now this kind of greenish glow come from the flames, and it starts kind of like waving its hand as though it's flicking away certain fire from its body, and it's slowly dripping green flames out, and you can see where some of the red starts to come back, but there is still green scattered throughout its limbs. It doesn't seem to affect it as much as it would have. Yet, based on its response, it seems very displeased by the fact that it responded to it at all. It normally would have been completely immune. For the sake of the whimsy, I have decided instead that it would have only been resistant at least to that one shot.
So will it be immune to all the other ones?
To be determined.
Okay.
So, with that, after Rodrick, we are back up at the top of initiative with Cleave, watching this green arrow just sling past, kind of looking as these droplets come past you. You can see, like, okay, probably not the best thing to touch, yet the arrow hits off the wall, and you can see the splatter as this elemental now starts to spin out with anger. And yet, as it does so, it looks calmer than ever. Looking back and forth between the 3 of you guys, you can see where it almost takes a breath. And as it breathes out, smoke. And the flames start to die down. And instead, you can see the shifting form continues as it was, yet in a different element. Now, in a much more aquatic form. As it looks on, you can see that there is still, inside of it, a dripping green mass, kind of just like warbling throughout its body. But it is your turn, sir.
Did you actually watch the last episode today?
Yes?
I wanted to keep myself honest really fast. Did I know I kept taking rests in all my adventures. If I rested one more time, I'm probably not an orangutan right now, and I probably took regular damage on my real health last turn. Do you remember if I said I rested again before I jumped down the hole?
Pretty sure.
No, I don't think you
Man,
rested.
I didn't. Yeah,
I don't remember you resting before you jumped down the hole.
You sure?
I remember you
I thought
grabbing
you
the map.
rested after both trials.
I feel like that is.
How long
what I
does
kept
it
doing.
last?
Like the same amount of time. So it's like 1 hour for an animal form and 1 hour for a short rest.
No,
so
then you'd have been fine because you climbed down. This was during the Earth trial. You climbed down, climbed back up, and then just hopped to, I believe.
Yeah, you didn't rest
didn't get
within
hurt.
the,
Yeah,
you
I
didn't
don't
rest
think
within
during
the
the Earth
trials.
trial. It was
Yeah.
only during the Ether trial that you really
yeah.
rested up like
I wouldn't have
crazy.
needed to because I was still
So I
in
don't think.
ape form.
Yeah,
So
might have
Yeah, it
taken
would
10
be
minutes
funny
out of
if
it,
you
but
took your true form right now, right in front of this thing.
Also, the question
Big
is,
giant ape and then all of a
does how does time work within the ziggurat? Because it does work differently within the ziggurat. So are our abilities still subject to standard time or to whatever ziggurat time is?
unfortunately, your characters wouldn't know that.
Correct. That would be for you to decide.
Write that question down and ask it again in 30 minutes.
That's a good.
all right. So do I get the sense, and maybe it's changed because it was like in a fire form before or whatever, that I would be harmed by touching this thing?
Given the fact that it was just burning hot around you, it definitely seemed like the fire one would have done so.
But now
it's
it doesn't
currently
feel like that.
water. Hard to say. You have
But
experienced.
the whole thing is, yeah, I have been experienced being inside the water thing, yeah. And there's something green floating around inside the water?
It's like a green liquid. You take it. It's the poison that he just shot through it.
Oh, okay. Man. Do I swipe at it with a sword still? I'd have to drop the form to do anything else pretty basically. Yeah, I really wanted to try to suplex it, but it's water. So,
Remember what
time to
happened in the
grapple?
water trial?
yeah.
You got any chlorine?
I'll,
Time for a web redemption?
I'll run in front of it
Okay.
towards like where Calagon is. What did I do to the screen? What just happened?
Cool.
That's okay.
You're in the right spot for me.
okay.
Green drop? Yeah.
In full? I guess let's take a quick pause for a
Does
brief
this still
moment.
record? That's how that works?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay.
All right. Do we want to keep it running?
I tripped on the gate, I didn't know.
Okay.
Okay, well then that's at least fixable.
Yeah. Keep recording and then just put the stream back up.
Sweet.
So do I hit stop streaming and start again?
Okay.
Perfect. All right. So we'll give that a brief second, and we can always just re-describe
This
what
part
it is
will
you're
be
trying
for,
to do here.
Yeah, this part will be for what's it called? Like bonus features. So this will be
Let's say, so as for your question,
DLC?
Yeah, you guys have yet to experience the difference in time, seeing that you were the first person to actually pass a trial. You especially have no idea that this is a thing that's occurred. The rest at least know that it seemed to take you a very long time. So they all got to experience that from the outside, where they're just like, man, Rodrick was in there a while before passing his trial. And so, like, for them, it's been over a day. For you, not so much. Arlyn, on the other hand, on the outside, slightly different experience.
He's gonna have
where
a beard when we get out.
everything is taking a very long time for you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
we might have to start paying attention to rations any second
Back
now.
up.
Sorry,
It's gonna
we
be like-
missed your birthday, Arlyn.
It's gonna be like Interstellar.
Wait, I
when
think
we
we're
get
back
back to
up.
Arlyn, it's been 28 years.
90 years old.
All right. So I don't know when we left
What else
off,
you got
but
going
I
on?
said
What
something
are you
about
doing?
wanting to suplex it, but it's made out of water. And now I ran around to the front of it in between the elemental and Calagon, and I would like to take a swing.
Very good. Easy enough.
And I would like to say, ah! And that's it. That's all my dialogue for this turn. It's gonna be a 6 to hit.
6.
How's it do?
Very cool. As you kind of swing your sword its way, still not completely used to just how to do so, you kind of full like bat it a little bit towards its side, and you watch as it just kind of raises an arm, and it's as though it lets you hit it, and you just kind of clink against this mass of ice, seemingly shielding its side, and just tanking it directly in your face, turning again your way. But unless there's anything else you'd like to do, Calagon, you're up next. Huh?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. Let's see. I'm assuming it got a lot colder in here, huh? Let's see, went
Definitely
from...
looks cool, but luckily,
Is it-
no change for you having been in the cold hallway.
It's mostly water, not ice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, seeing as he's water now, I can't do what I was gonna do, so I guess I'll just have to do a level 1 magic missile since it worked.
Straightforward.
But this
Love it.
time, after seeing Cleave as an ape jump in front of me, yeah, I'm gonna yell, Cleave! Cleave, no. Let me handle this. If it's my time, it's my time. And I'm actually going to step back just into this water part. Let's get my feet into the water. And shoot magic missile, first level.
Okay.
Now all of it is water, right? There's no...
Right.
Yeah.
It's all water.
So then what I'm going to do is actually... Is the green in one specific part of him? Or is it in...
It's just kind of floating.
Just all over?
Yeah, slowly
All right.
drifting through it.
I'm
Like
just
a
gonna...
lava lamps.
Yeah, I'm going to strategically just go, you know, in
Boom,
a
boom,
row.
boom.
Like,
Hit it.
yeah, lower body, middle body, upper body.
Very
to
cool.
the head. See if I can disperse the water and make him very mad. Whoops.
I rolled one to the head
3.
like
I
a special
need to
forces
roll-
guy over here.
Sorry. I rolled too many die.
Okay.
Alright. 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 damage.
You guys still keep doing this. This is crazy.
I rolled 3 threes, which is impressive. And then they add ones to each.
Okay. Then
So-
slowly just chipping away, each of you guys blasting back different portions of this elemental. You watch now as it starts splashing water out from behind, and as it goes, it reaches up an arm towards you, Calagon, and starts to kind of spin around Cleave, and as it goes to release a wave of water, you just... And at that last moment of impact, you see as its water now starts to shift, and you can see the ground, the rocks start to fly up at its feet and start to just impact, where instead of the hopeful blast of water that it set forth, it actually just sends a flurry of rocks directly into Cleave, where it instantly just impacts and stops. And in its frustration, it actually takes like a step back from Cleave.
Nice.
Rodrick, back to you.
Okay. Does Hunter's Mark work on any ranged weapon?
It should. I believe so.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to reach back into my bag and I'm going to take out a vial of acid.
Let's go.
And I'm
Sheesh.
going to 5, 10. Okay, perfect. Now I'm within range. I'm going to throw the vial of acid at it.
Very good.
And it's horrible. 8.
8. Okay. Could you read out this vial of acid for me?
So, as an action, you can splash the contents of this vial into a creature within 5 feet of you or throw the vial up to 20 feet, shattering it on impact. In either case, make a ranged attack against a creature or object, treating the acid as an improvised weapon. On a hit, the target takes 2d6 acid damage.
2d6 acid. Love that. Okay. Would an 18 hit you?
An 18 would hit me.
Okay. That's going to be 9 points of acid damage.
I'm casting Absorb Elements.
Haha! As this thing puts out its arm, spins it back around, sends it your way, and you can just kind of arms around it, taking the impact to your chest, but still kind of taking in some of it, and you can feel as it starts to burn, yet still just pulses through you, and you start to absorb portions of it.
What does absorb elements?
Huh?
What's that?
What does it do?
Oh, what does it do? So, I capture some of the incoming energy, lessening its effect on me and storing it for my next melee attack. I have
Rodrick's
resistance
OP.
now to acid, and I can utilize acid for my next attack against it.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you see all my burn marks kind of go from red to green.
Wait,
Dude.
hold on. Did I misunderstand what it did? It flung your acid back at you?
Yeah.
It's back to ether form currently, and it.
Okay.
So how much was the acid
did fling
damage?
it back. 9. 9 points.
So
At least we know the
half?
pattern.
Acid or poison?
I
Was
threw a
acid-
vial of
This
acid.
one was acid.
This one's acid, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
This one's acid.
Got
Okay.
it.
So it goes
So then
earth,
it'll go down to
ether,
4.
Fire, water. That's its changing forms in that order, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
was
gonna be
ether, earth, fire, water.
Ether, earth, fire, water. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
It
No,
started-
it came from
Yeah,
Earth just
Yeah,
now,
it just
right?
came
It
from
started as ether. I'm sorry, was
No,
it
it
earth?
came
just now?
from water
No,
and
it was
the
water.
rocks
It went
right
to,
next
it
to
went to
ether. The
splash,
first
and
thing
then
was
it was
ether, right?
Oh,
rocks
sorry, you
and stuff
described
coming
rocks,
up.
but it's ether.
But
Rocks
ether
is
also
ether,
pulls
yeah.
at everything around
Okay,
it.
my bad.
That
Yeah.
does make sense. Forget
So
about
it is
Remember-
ether, earth, fire, water.
Correct.
Yeah.
So far, it's been in that.
So
okay.
that's the order of the trials.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is it reacting or is it changing in that order specifically?
I don't know.
Time to find out with Cleave up first
Seems
now
like it's
and in
changing
its
in order.
face.
Yeah.
I'm very okay with you telling me that this completely
Be
doesn't
strategic.
work the way I want it to work, but I'm gonna do science right now.
Science it up.
So I'm gonna place. I'm gonna like do dramatic pose with the sword behind me, and I'm gonna lock it in place, and then I'm gonna monkey run around it to the side where I'm flanking it with Rodrick here. Or I'm flanking with
God
more like
bless
the
you.
Calagon, but I'm standing near Rodrick. And then I'm going to bonus action Thor bring my sword to me and see if that makes an attack. If you tell me it just goes around, it's okay, but
That is very,
learning
very fun.
experience.
As he's doing that, can I take my bonus action really quick? Actually, that I didn't take.
Yeah, what would that be?
For my bonus action, I'm actually going to reach back into my little side bag, and I'm going to drink an energy potion, which is going to restore 1d4 spell slots.
Fantastic.
If you have any to throw at me, I'd appreciate any potions that you have available.
I restore all my spell slots.
That is wild.
That's
I would,
sick,
I would
bro.
love that as well.
Current Rodrick is on
like
fire,
guava
literally.
energy.
Crazy.
he is. He is on fire.
He's going through it. There it is. All right. As you look on, you watch as Cleave starts to spin around this thing, and Cleave, you recognize from before that getting near this is very difficult, or at least it was against the last Ether Elemental, and yet, in your current form, you seem to be unaffected and not affecting its current orbit.
Oh, that's right. You can't be moved.
And so as you spin around it, putting your hand out to it, I'll still say go ahead and make an attack with the sword.
Come on, Cleave.
All right.
At
Let's go.
advantage.
At advantage.
Okay. I was gonna say, oh, it's
Come
just
on, come on.
flavorful. It's kind of like you ran around and swung, but like, yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. What you
They were
got?
both kind of whack.
Ah.
The second one was better, but I'm not proficient. This is 10.
Okay.
Comes out to 10.
As you spin around, you can see
Dang.
where it
man.
starts to actually curve from your current trajectory where its set path would be, and it starts actually pulling towards the elemental as it actually starts to run out of the way of it, and it starts to kind of curve out as though being sucked in by the elemental instead, and then thins back out and heads your way back to your hand. That's your action.
All right. That was my bonus action and my action.
Okay.
Action locks in place. Bonus action pulls the
Okay. Very cool.
All right.
Yeah. Oh,
Now, my
a
movement, I did
worthwhile
everything.
attempt. Very
Yeah.
cool. Then next up after Cleave is going to be Calagon, and then back to the elemental.
Great. Well, I'm out of everything. So right now it's still an elemental.
Still ether,
Or
yeah.
ether. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, since it's ether, maybe it's a little bit different. I'm gonna firebolt it from where I'm at.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah. Give it a go. Let's see here. Let me double check.
I don't think I hit it.
a little concerning. It's a little
Get
sad.
off my
It's okay.
friend. 12.
12. Okay. Okay. I'll say make an Arcana check for me.
Cool.
Please.
Okay, I can do that. Look at how hard that is to read. It's a 14. And then let's see what I had. Plus 4, 18.
18. Okay. You are able to redirect this just enough so that I will allow you only to choose. Would you like this to come your way or Cleave's way?
I can take it.
Do I know what it is?
You
Do I
see that the fireball that you just shot out goes near it and instead starts spinning frantically, and it starts to whir out of control.
And it's
But
your
you
choice.
still
I
are
can take it.
controlling it just briefly as it's pulled from you, so that you can still offset it just enough. But it's going to go one of those two ways as it's channeling it in both directions with its hands out. So I'll give you the call.
He's still got monkey health. That's pretty helpful.
Yeah, but you
He's
know me, I don't
plated
want to
over
hurt
with
Cleave.
a massive exoskeleton over top that as
Yeah,
well.
and that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, I mean, does Calagon really have the choice here, or is it just like...
No, you recognize that it's pulling at your attack.
Yeah,
But
Calagon's
you
not
get the
going to
chance
just
of
let it
letting
hit
it
Cleave.
loose early and letting it fly all the way back, or like letting it just kind of snap just outside of the orbit, which would likely hit Cleave, or holding onto it and letting it just redirect and full back
I'm
towards
not
you.
going to let it hit Cleave. Calagon's not going to purposely hit Cleave with it, so...
Okay.
It was a stupid thing, and I'm going to win a stupid prize.
Okay. That's a 12 to hit.
It meets it, but...
I don't know if I would have hit Cleave.
Yeah, it meets it.
Okay. Well, then go ahead and roll the damage that you
But
will
I
be
appreciate
receiving from
thematically
yourself,
he's right,
essentially.
What he should do with it, but
Yeah, I'm not going
Would it
to...
have heavy? Would it?
no, it wouldn't have.
And is
Yeah,
there
that's
anything
what I
else
figured.
after your damage that you'd like to do on your turn?
It's a 5 damage. I just got hit with a fireball, so probably... Well, no, I'm already in the water. Maybe just hide... I'm going to actually... A little hurt. I'm going to hide around this corner and yell, Cleave! I can't take much more. And that's my turn.
I'm gonna do a double
Very cool.
fisted, like smashes to the ground. Just like,
What HP are you at?
5.
Cool.
Okay. Then as it kind of steps forward, Cleave, it steps into your space, and it's similar to that water elemental of previous, but as it steps in, you can feel the pressure, yet it doesn't impact you as it had previously, going through like that kind of plasma force that you'd previously bathed in, essentially. And instead, it's going to reach its hand out, and it's going to once again attempt to grab Rodrick. Go ahead and make a strength saving throw for me.
Strength saving throw.
Come on.
18.
18.
okay.
Very good. All right.
Not bad.
Then, with the pull portion, there is no other target to lob at, but it will still release a slight pulse of energy. Still, with that, it's coming back your way as it doesn't have anywhere else to release, and you feel the pull, and then soon after there's this like repulsion, this push that kind of waves throughout your body that you kind of stay steadfast in. As you can feel now, going instead from pulling, it starts to knock back into a push, as though trying to slam you into the corner behind, to no avail. So, Rodrick, feeling this, getting amped up from the tension between the two of you, it is now your turn.
At this point, I will take out my Lash of Immolation, and I'll whoosh, take it out, and it'll go from fire, and you'll see the acid go into it as well.
Yeah.
That I absorbed.
Forgot about that. That's crazy.
I'm casting Zephyr Strike, so I can move 60 feet now, and I take 0 opportunity attacks.
Okay.
I'm gonna use that, and I get advantage on my attack roll. I'm gonna use that to flank with Cleave. So now I get double advantage.
Okay.
I've moved 5, 10, 15,
Make
20, 25.
a.
25 so
let
far.
me double check here. Let me throw one thing into the mix here, because unfortunately this is not such a simple creature. I would like for you instead to make a strength saving throw.
Okay.
Another one.
Another one.
Yep. That is unfortunately what it requires a lot.
3.
3. Then as you go to circle it, instead it pushes away from you, as though two similarly poled magnets pushing one away from the other. As you kind of enter its space, and it starts to just kind of warp, sliding its feet as though it were just kind of hovering just above the ground.
How far is it from me?
It's 10 feet from where you're
Cool.
at.
My lash of
currently.
illumination reaches 10 feet.
Nice. Go ahead and
So,
try for it.
I'm still going to attack with advantage. I'm assuming that I'm not flanking anymore, so it's not double advantage.
How much movement did you say you have?
I have 60. I've expended 25 so far.
You can attempt still to go back to the other side if you'd like of it.
Okay. So
You just know that within 10 feet of it, there is this, like, gravitic orbit, if
I'm
you
not
will.
going to do that because I need to get to Calagon.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to attack.
And wait,
with
why do you
advantage.
have advantage? Is it Zephyr Strike?
Zephyr Strike?
Dope.
Sick.
That's crazy.
You should have got the water elemental if you're gonna have Zephyr Strike.
Come on.
18 to hit.
18 does in fact
With a
hit.
15, so yeah.
Okay,
Does
so-
he have different ACs? We'll talk about this.
So it's going to be. So this is what it's going to be.
Each
Ready?
element is different.
That's a good point. How does it look
So
right
it's
now?
going to be 5.
Would you even be able to tell if it's bloody?
Bear with me.
It's rocky in water.
Yeah.
So 5. Extra 1d6
Definitely
fire
fire,
damage.
for sure.
All right, so it's 5 slashing damage,
Okay.
2 fire damage, 1 acid damage,
Remember force. Hunter's mark.
and then Hunter's Mark. 6 force damage.
Okay. And how much poison damage would it be taking?
Poison damage, it would have taken, since it failed, 3d6.
Go ahead and roll that for me for this time around.
Goodness gracious.
It's crazy.
15.
15 damage.
Okay.
At that point, I'm gonna
Holding weight.
I'm gonna continue to
Yeah,
move.
right.
I still have 35 feet of movement speed, and I'm running
doing
to
something too,
Calagon.
Okay.
Run
You
to
can
me.
see where portions of its stone were moving about, each slicked with this poison, but yet there's still some of it coursing through it as it's slowly whipping out more and more of it from its mass. And as it's almost like attempting to scatter it from its insides, you can tell that between forms it's been fighting the poison off from within, and yet as you're attacking, it's having to use some of that same stonework to protect itself. And as you start just and pull at it, you pull from the center, and you can see where the acid, poison, and fire all just tear from its innards and just cause this light, almost explosion from within, pulling the whip through its mass, and you can see this fall off within the explosion of stone hitting the ground, and you can see where the entire elemental seems to get just a little bit smaller as it takes on an earthier mass again.
Oh.
The strongest horseman.
Wait, so you took down one of the elementals. Which one was it? It was ether just now?
It was an ether form.
I took down the ether.
Nice.
Bro, I hit it with
Let's
almost
go.
every element.
Yeah, every element he had.
Let's
That thing
go.
That's
was
wild.
looking pretty hefty.
And you made it
Absurd.
to me? You
I made it to you.
Oh,
I'm
man.
behind you, and I come with health, so don't worry.
Thank goodness.
Okay,
I need spell slots if you have any more of those potions.
I know.
With that, yeah, let's just keep it
Let's
going then real
go.
quick, I guess. Cleave.
Do I have any reason to believe I'll be able to lift this thing right now?
No.
All right, in
I'll
that
tell you
case,
right now, from your past experiences with the already slightly like smaller seeming initially golems, and knowing how much those weighed,
All right, I am going to run away and join my friends.
Run away!
I believe 60 feet will get me exactly behind the
Okay.
next other wall, so I'm gonna do that. And it can do whatever it wants on my way out. So I'll get right
Team
behind there.
attack. Team attack. Team attack.
And then
Use
if I
the
can
masks.
hold the bonus action, I'd like to hold the bonus action to drop my form until after I get a breath thematically, but it will just be before my next turn.
For sure. Okay. Cool. So that's your turn.
Yes, my turn.
Fantastic. Then Calagon, as your friends now start to push onward towards you, you can feel the surging of adrenaline through your body, and yet you feel almost
I leave my sword.
cool. Nice. A cool frost start to enter through your feet, and rather than causing you harm, it almost feels welcoming. It's rejuvenating. And the light continues to glow, and you can see where this
Did you put on the
thin
mask?
trail
Yeah.
of light goes from your legs to that center column of kind of that gemstone, if you will, at the base of this portal, and you can see where it's slowly glowing heavier and heavier, and as you now enter, you can feel the wounds starting to lighten. But yet, it's clear that you're not where you need to be to get its full effect.
So since I'm next to Rodrick and Cleave, am I able to?
I would have liked to prepare a bonus action to hand him a potion of healing.
Okay.
And would it be an action to take it?
You could take that as a bonus action. You just have to roll for it.
Okay.
You could take it as a full action as well to get the full.
No, I said I wanted to prepare a bonus action for whatever my next.
So what do I roll?
Oh, for the next turn, you're saying it would
Correct.
be? Okay, so you wouldn't be able to do that yet.
So you still haven't prepared it. You have to
Okay.
prepare it
Okay.
on your turn to delay it.
So I can't like take it from you,
Not just
knowing
yet.
that he
Not
has
just yet.
potions.
He will be
as
doing
an
that
action?
soon. He will be doing that soon. We'll get
As
there.
an action, I want to ruffle through your pockets. I'm just kidding. So I'm gonna move, I guess, to the center where that light is coming from.
Okay.
And do I feel any?
Taking it in, you start to feel this light rejuvenation. It's slow, but you can see where kind of the skin around you, in that like second skin, if you will, starts to like replenish.
What?
Okay.
Wait.
And you
Are our
can
Your portals?
Are
They heal
portals?
us.
you can
Oh,
heal
it said
only
that.
1 point,
Yeah,
1
it
point
says
at the
rest
moment. Okay.
but
here.
I'll take that. And he is a Earth at the moment.
he is Earth at the
Okay.
moment.
Noticing that it was the ether that made the fire come back, I'm going to, after feeling amazing, look back at him and say, how about this one? Shoot a firebolt at him. And it's cocked. That probably doesn't hit. 10.
10. Okay. In what is an unusual show from the previous Earth Elementals that you'd seen, who otherwise had very, very little movement to them, it's almost like this thing cocks back and just slugs the fireball as it's coming its way and just starts running towards you.
Okay. As I see it running, I'm gonna be like, guys, and that ends my turn.
Very good. Then, trucking your way, a few of you guys have unfortunately had to deal with these things in times past, but very few of you guys, just Calagon in this instance, have actually been able to witness it firsthand. Luckily, within all of its movement, it's only able to close out this hallway as it's now forcing itself in here with you all.
Oh man. you
But
guys
that
are
is its
hidden,
turn for the
bro.
time being.
Oh, it couldn't even reach
So-
you.
As it now is just barreling towards you all. We're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna get back here for insight check as we get to talk about.
yeah.
See you next time around.
This is where we're leaving off until next week?
Yep.
You guys just get to sit there getting charged by a giant transformative elemental. Enjoy the fight next week. We'll be back here in just a little bit where we get to finally talk about each and every one of the trials, the battles, the crazy explosions, and everything that these guys are hoping to accomplish with this fight. See you guys back here in 10.
See ya.
Okay, welcome back, guys. So,
Caw-caw.
while the initiative may be paused for a time, the rolling has not yet stopped. So, it has been long overdue. But everybody here, please go ahead and roll for me an insight check, if you would, please.
Not good.
That was terrible. Just like my
Is it-
trial.
we're not asking Manny anything today.
Are we doing straight rolls for insight check initiative,
Yeah.
or can I use my initiative bonus?
Straight
No.
rolls.
try
This is David's initiative.
Wow, that would have been a
So-
lot better.
17.
17. Anyone beating 17 over here?
Nope.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Well, I mean, I think it is the most appropriate since the start of this insight check is going to pace all the way back to the explosion where Rodrick was unfortunately scarred in many ways, traumatized mentally, physically scarred. But with that, I would like to know your thoughts regarding the explosion, how Rodrick felt during all that, and how you, David, felt about having to
did
face death.
Yeah. Okay.
How
I'll
he
let
felt
you know.
about that?
Actually, really
He
quick.
didn't.
Really
He
quick.
died.
Before we started insight check, I did want to introduce the world to our producer, who now has.
Let's
What's up, everybody?
go! The real fastest insight.
Thank you
That's
guys
a
for
face for
finally
radio.
including me.
Tommy!
Yeah, we finally let him out of the
Clowning us
dungeon.
every day.
Yeah.
Actually, we just put a sheet behind him so you guys don't
He's
see.
still in the dungeon.
So you guys don't see the shackles behind that we tie him to every day.
Oh no.
Poor guy. We love Hobby. We love Hobby. It's a better life with him.
It's a
Oh,
better
it's a
life.
better life with him.
That's funny.
All right,
Oh,
so
it's funny.
In the
the
dungeon.
question was, it was how did I feel about dying? Is that?
Yeah, how did you feel about dying? You know,
How did I feel about dying?
anything cool to it?
More or less,
Anything
more or less.
horrible?
How'd your character
was
feel
it
about
cool?
dying? Let's start there.
Did he take
All right,
anything
well-
from it?
Well, namely, the Rodrick blamed the entire thing on Cleave, 100%. Like
Very
he genuinely.
So did Cleave.
Yeah, he genuinely does
Very
believe
nice.
that Cleave is the reason that he is a burnt little crisp raisin right now. And it was interesting from a David perspective dealing with death because I actually forgot, or maybe you had to introduce the fighting death mechanics that you did.
I think I had mentioned it briefly, and that was kind of part of the discussion behind like the rolling against each other instead. But the mechanics are obviously very different, and so the idea is that like there are certain things that elicit different responses, but largely there is an opportunity to face different trials in death. So with that, you are able to either extend your life a little bit longer after death, or you are able to just kind of fight for it back. And so in your case, having bypassed a few other options, we'll say, I did give a few additional rounds for you to potentially get healed by supernatural means. And so having fallen within the realm of that, you still would not have just come straight back to life. You instead now got a chance to fight for your life back. And so that is how that was brought about.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was happy about that because I genuinely thought that Rodrick was a goner. I will say though, the Rodrick that is no more. I don't see how he can be, right? His positive outlook on life was suddenly burned away to ashes. Everything he had going for him was taken from him, from Cleave.
Cleave, yeah, for sure, of course.
His
Cleave and Cleave alone, and no other orcs had anything to do with it. Just saying.
no other ones.
Wow.
His future, his legacy, in accordance to what he would have lived up to for his father, is gone. Every bit of it, just absolutely gone. So I've actually had to completely scratch the backstory.
Question: Is the notebook still around, or was that burnt to a
The
crisp?
notebook. Oh, Rodrick's like
Rodrick's
father's notebook.
Yes.
That notebook did
Wow.
not have any magical.
Yeah, so that's gone.
So his.
Wow.
This
That
is actually the
a
most
very
symbolic
unfortunate
thing in the world. With
thing.
the notebook being burned up, so did Rodrick's identity.
Wow.
How
Now Rodrick
You're
has the
Jason Bourne.
space to
Interesting.
form his own identity.
You're the Jason Bourne.
There it is.
Arendor.
So now Rodrick's got a new identity. It began with the sewing of the sleeves into the cloak, the hood.
Can we clarify how that actually looks?
Yeah, so the hood.
Long point, eye slits.
The hood doesn't have a tall point on it, and go down with little eye holes.
Oh my god.
That's how he explained it. This is the way he explained
Because
it.
I explained it that way not to make it like funny or weird. I thought it would look cool, and then I imagined it really quick, and I was like, wow, that looks so dumb. It looks
It's a rough
so
choice
dumb.
there, yep.
It's so ridiculous.
Like some kind of a freaking racist Robin Hood or something. I don't know.
Down with all the orcs!
Yeah, exactly.
So bad.
Burn them.
So bad.
So I would say that it was just like a standard
like
hood.
a deep hood.
Correct, deep hood that goes over his eyes, like that of a ranger, like the what you would typically think of a.
But
of a
it
ranger.
covers the view of his face.
But covers his
basically.
face. All you can see is the lower part of his jaw. That's all you can see, and he's completely covered in scars. I mean, every bit of him is covered in scars. Arms, what you can see of his legs. His clothes are still kind of tattered, even though he was able to sew them back together a little bit. But they're still pretty tattered. So, yeah, I mean, he just looks like a burn victim. That's the reality.
Even after the dragon healing, because we replenish, right? We replenish scars and things like that after
Largely,
rest.
yes, yeah. So
That was just far
something that we'd established early on is that as part of the 4 horsemen who had this kind of supernatural power to them, their endurance, their healing factors were all much greater. Hence why, I don't know if many noticed, but the twins didn't heal up over, just a long rest just like the 4 horsemen do. So it is a supernatural healing factor that allows you guys to just sleep off all of these crazy effects and conditions and stuff that most people would be struggling with for weeks, if not months.
Yeah.
So obviously we haven't had a lot of time to do any kind of role play to see how this new personality of Rodrick would show.
Evolves or something.
I will say there will always be a performative aspect to everything Rodrick does, no matter what he does.
Just a little drama boy.
And he I will say he will never go full dark.
Okay.
There will always be a little light. And we'll see that once we get rid of this transformation elemental.
Let's see if he burns up again.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Watch that little light go out.
Correct. We'll see about that.
We'll see how much I can scar Rodrick.
Yeah, well.
And then we'll talk.
You've barely touched him so far, so.
Not much further than he already is.
Yeah. So, which actually I would start jumping into his ziggurat thing. So where I'm really gonna leave off is just that moment where I think it was Cleave that mentioned to just change my disguise or to disguise myself as something else and then go into the ziggurat, right? To fool them, to not show my true identity.
Yeah.
And then his response was, I'm no longer myself anyway, so why would I need to disguise myself?
Oh.
So that's where I will leave Rodrick's story prior to the ziggurat.
All right, so then a couple things to just add to that encounter, if you will. The dynamite was actually originally just part of the map that I believe it is one of the Chain Peku maps, and oftentimes I make like a ton of edits to all these maps and I change out different features, some stuff that I'm like, that has nothing to do with the campaign. I'll mix maps around, I'll combine elements, I'll take one part of a map and conjoin it into another or something. With that one, no, I just said like, yeah, it makes sense. We've talked about how they have explosives within this general region. It is commonplace for these peoples, and you guys just happened to mess around with dynamite and with an orc who knew his stuff.
How does falling on dynamite make it explode, though? That was a curious thing.
High impact after a time, dynamite becomes volatile after sitting for a while, and it almost has it almost sweats nitroglycerin.
It becomes,
and
it
so
goes back to just nitroglycerin.
It
How do you
goes-
know this?
Watching
What kind
Lost.
of Google searches are you
Watching
making,
Lost,
Tristan?
believe it or not, where they couldn't
Lost.
move around all the sticks of dynamite without potentially blowing themselves up.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
And
yeah.
all it takes is for one spark to create combustion. So.
Yeah. So the impact of the orc
Just
alone,
the
just
chains on the
hitting, was
chains
to go completely.
No, but nitroglycerin, you don't even need sparks. It just has to like move too much. If you just drop a glass of nitroglycerin.
Yeah, it's normally very stable, but after a long period of time, it becomes unstable, and at that point, force is enough to cause it to go off. Explode.
I still want to see your Google history after this.
I do, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, all of the answers I give throughout this stream, I'm always like, why do I know that? That's a little. Having Cleave standing there was such a cool moment for me in like this whole orc area that I was really hoping for like a cooler moment of getting to like cause fear, but that didn't quite pan out. Just like with, unfortunately, Barry. So the initial blast radius, there was only like a very small blast radius that unfortunately didn't quite fit my standard of how much dynamite was in that cave. So I figured I was going to cut that off at a certain point and then give half damage past that point. What I hoped for is to add a little bit of drama to those of you guys on the outskirts and, you know, maybe knock someone else out. What I didn't account for was Barry getting absolutely obliterated in the blast. So
viewership's down, by the way. I just want to mention that.
With that being said,
Barry.
How would Calagon have really taken this incident? And specifically, I would like to know what happened to Barry. Where's he at? Where's his body?
I'm
Did you
pretty
just
sure
keep him in your
Calagon was
pocket?
knocked out from the blast and woke up later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
true.
I didn't even, when I came to, I wasn't even, like, Barry wasn't necessarily the first thing on my mind. It was like, what happened? What's going on? And then pretty much as everyone was like kind of situating themselves, the realization came. And Calagon kind of has a tendency to bury trauma pretty deep, whether that be his trauma with water. Nice. Just dig that one deep down too.
There you go.
Gonna
Bury it down.
So, yeah, so he kind of just flipped the switch. He same with Rodrick. No resent towards Cleave, but just like I've almost died multiple times. My one companion, you know, animal like sidekick has passed, and pretty much Calagon's just like, maybe it's my time, maybe this isn't for me. So it's even like in his head, after he realized Barry's gone and everything that happened, it's like, do I die trying or do I just go home?
Wow.
And at least after the explosion, that's where his mindset was. It's kind of changed after the trials, but
Joel, I guess for Cleave, would it have made sense for him to necessarily do anything in any of that time, or would he have just kind of placed Barry beside where Calagon was at that point?
Well, I think we addressed Barry's body.
I don't remember addressing his body specifically.
The situation was that we checked on it, and that you described that it just basically was like disintegrating.
It wasn't disintegrating,
like
but that is, he had a layer of ash over him and trying to like resuscitate him, like basically concaved his chest.
Right, that
But
sounds like he's just ash.
It means he was very brittle, not necessarily just a complete incineration in full, but it was
like,
double his HP.
Like when you're at the
and
very end of a bonfire
was
and
like
like
a lot.
anything that's there is just like
yeah, he was
yeah,
much
it's
more
just holding
brittle
in shape
for
just
sure.
by not
But
moving. Like
Exactly.
a stiff
you did
wind would-
feel actual form still in there. It was just very brittle in relation. So there were like full like bones and things of that sort. It just would have taken
Do you think he suffered?
a lot. Probably not. That was basically just instant. Barry was just gone in a blast.
So like super quick. Like it's not like he called for Calagon while he was burning.
Nah.
Calagon was
He'd have
knocked out.
just vanished. He was just like, all right, guys, got a blast. And how's that?
Blast. You know?
So no whimpers that Calagon
No,
couldn't hear.
no, nothing. Luckily,
he
they
was
were both
knocked out.
out at the same time, and one of them got back up, the other did not.
He didn't speak English for the first time and say
Wow.
like Dad.
That would be horrifying, honestly.
What is going on now?
Well then, okay, yeah, after all that incident, and oh yeah, I remember you saying something along the lines of like, oh yeah, thanks for taking it easy on me and the fighting for death thing. I do want to note publicly, I did not do any such thing, and you just rocked me and have continued to do so since then, as Rodrick has been popping off in some interesting and exciting ways. But Arlyn was the next person to get an interesting turn of pace as you got a new weapon.
Oh yeah.
So
No, that whole scenario is a little bit weird for Arlyn. You know, I think we had that special intro for that following episode after
the fire,
Insight
yeah.
Check.
That was cool.
That basically kind of summed up the mental processing of Arlyn after that explosion. Being reminded of his town villages burning in dragonfire and his parents dying, trying to fight off this dragon and everything, and all that just started coming back as everything that I guess he had helped build, this team and like a calling and heroism, right? Just went up in flames, and so that was very difficult for Arlyn. So much so that he kind of lost a little bit of his like sense. He ran out to, if you remember, he ran out to Rodrick to try to get him, and he himself went down and died. And as Cleave pulled him out, he was able to come back. He was able to come back to life and get that like second wind, and immediately jumped off of Cleave's arms and ran back to Rodrick to try and get him out. But that was the moment though that I was able to touch him like with a finger.
Which, for the record, based on David's roll, I believe was the last possible turn for Rodrick Elwood to have actually survived that instance.
Yeah, because you let me roll a d4,
right?
And I rolled a 1.
Yeah, so it was literally like
one round.
One round of combat from doing it, and I remember you dancing around the idea of healing him versus doing something else, and I was just sitting here like sweating.
And I wanted to like.
Had he not
chosen
chosen
I'm at
to
1
heal
HP.
me,
Everybody was at 1, yeah.
Would Rodrick have,
Or 0.
have died?
Yep, yeah, for sure.
I literally just gave him 1 HP to try and bring him back up, and just because to Arlyn's knowledge, it was possible, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, according to the fighting death rules that Tristan has set, you know, you roll that d4, and that's a certain amount of rounds before. This is after you failed.
I do think I gave
right?
some leniency because I think I swapped over whatever Barry would have gotten and just gave that essentially to Rodrick for like a slight extended duration, but otherwise, yeah, I just felt so bad. Poor Barry.
So
Barry.
yeah, the roll essentially says, you know, you have this many rounds to gain some sort of healing.
Right.
You are no longer fighting anymore.
Yeah.
But if you gain some sort of healing in this certain amount of rounds, then you go on to the next step of fighting death, which we'll talk about
So
in a
that's
second.
more of a 50-50 now all of a sudden. So rather than just like, oh yeah, like okay, I get healed, I come back, I wanted to draw this out so that like death isn't so simple. We're in like D&D mechanics, which is the primary of what we're using here still. Death is either like you immediately come back or you come back within like 4 hours depending on your role, and that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
In these kind of expanded rules, there are more ways to kind of fight your way back at certain times. There's ways to come back with buffs. There are more negatives that can occur, and there is even a form of instant death. So all very exciting, and we will
which
see,
we'll see how
which
that
you
plays out
guys
eventually.
face. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he almost lost his sense just to try and save Rodrick, and luckily, you know, they were able to pull him out with Cleave using his water bending, is what we like to call it for fun, right? His moving water from like the beach shore and all that. He was able to kind of like extinguish some of the fire, and we were able to pull Rodrick out and get my shield and things like that. And yeah, so that part was really, really rough on Arlyn, right? Especially being the only one to survive and witness, right? Even though he saw Cleave standing in the corner, but he's seen Cleave's ability to come back up from death at least one more time. He's seen that before. I literally was alive by 1 hit point.
We've had a lot.
I was alive by 1 hit point. And so that was
I was
just
alive
like
by 1 hit point only because of that ability.
Because of that
Only
ability.
yeah,
So
we were both-
imagine like trying to trek this like cave in flames was hard. It was really difficult because anything can damage you, and that's it. You're done. That's it. And so anyways, yeah, we pulled them out. Everything, you know, was traumatizing. We're trying to figure out, well, we can't swim out of here. These guys aren't even alive right now, or at least breathing. And then I tried to heal him with a healing potion, which we'll explain in a second. That disappeared, right? And that didn't work. And then we essentially kind of hid off on the side until, they were both able to wake up, right? And then from there, we made our way around. We went into the other cave, and Cleave found a weapon that he gave to me. You're just gifting weapons, bro.
Well, I was gonna talk about where Cleave's head is at right now. I mean, he probably would have done that regardless, because he's not always a big weapon user. But Cleave completely agrees with Rodrick that this was all Cleave's fault, and that and after the loss of Barry, which was a huge thing, that for a time loss of Rodrick, but still the scarring of Rodrick, the serious harm to all of his other people, and the completely meaningless mission where he was trying. He already didn't know what to do the whole time. Everybody was dealing with the one orc. When he died anyway, it was just like, what did I do any of that for? And after that was all sort of settled. Actually, let me rewind even further. So one of the opening personality traits that I gave Cleave was that he was very moldable, impressionable, and particularly on small or quick decisions. So like anything that you guys suggested, he was pretty much down for. Particularly, there was a whole other personality trait for particularly if if Calagon suggests anything. If Calagon says anything, he's just like, yep, that's what I'm doing now. And as we moved along through some of the earlier episodes, that trait came into conflict with some of his more moral traits.
Yeah.
Where sometimes you guys would make decisions that he didn't agree with morally. And so that got adjusted. After this, the adjustment completely got thrown out the window.
Wow.
From that point on until where we are now, Cleave views himself as just a tool to be used by the other three horsemen. He's just like, he completely does not trust his own decision making whatsoever. His decision making is just whatever you guys decide.
It's kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of scary because Cleave was the only, I would
Voice
say
of
he was the
reason,
only
almost.
horseman that was keeping the other ones from being willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodrick more than anybody. Arlyn always saw he always saw how doing something harsh could be useful, so he was never against it. Calagon just...
Well, I think specifically me and what happened earlier sessions.
Calagon's a little unhinged sometimes.
I became, and he was always my ground. He was always something I could be like, I need to be more like Cleave in these situations. So
I feel like he was everybody's ground. He was everybody's ground with Rumgar. He was everybody's ground with all these different situations.
Yeah, that's true.
And he no longer apparently is that ground, which could be
very exciting.
It could be the end of the world.
Future sessions could cause very interesting things.
Also, I think Cleave's moral ground was likely the end of the world with the Aboleth, and likely almost the end of the Four Horsemen.
That was actual mind control, to be fair, though.
Yeah,
it appeared to be his moral ground.
At the tail end of
straight up mind control.
I will say, his mind control of you was easily convincing to us. It sounded like Cleave.
Yeah, it sounded like Cleave, for sure.
I mean, I went for it, man.
Like, had he mind controlled Rodrick and was like, no, we should definitely just, like, help this thing.
I'd be like, yeah, you're right.
Rodrick, who are you?
Rodrick, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, he got the right one. He got the right one for sure.
But you found this weapon on the other side.
So I found this weapon. And I want to add that when you said that now we have freedom to do whatever, in Cleave's view, it's like whatever must be done. Because now the concept of morality is like, oh, what you guys were doing wasn't wrong. I was wrong for thinking I was more moral than you. Because the reason was that I have a lower intelligence, really high wisdom.
Wow.
So, in the way I was applying that was like he was very resourceful and understanding of how to learn, but he had never had a formal education, so he didn't know. He knew enough to know he didn't know as much as everybody else knows. So he always trusted in you guys at first. Now he trusts that you also know more than him morally because it ends in ways that he can't anticipate. And maybe that's what you saw that he didn't see.
Wow, that's good.
Which is crazy.
That is That is a
Rodrick
switch up for
definitely
sure.
does not have the moral high ground in comparison to Cleave.
I think
That's where he's at.
where we stand right now, then, especially if you've kind of dropped your guard as Cleave, is I feel like the only one that still kind of has like a stagnant moral compass feels like it's Arlyn, because you are. I mean, Calagon has a death wish. At least it might be different now after the trials.
he went ready
You know,
to
it
just
might be
die
different now,
or kill
but he has a
everyone
death wish
Yeah, I
into
do.
the
to
ziggurat.
essentially just kill himself. Like,
Well, not really. I mean, I think everyone's changed since we've gone through
For sure.
what we've gone through. Like,
Totally.
You just said what you've gone through. Me specifically being kind of like, oh, I thought this was what I was meant for. This is what, things are going to kind of come easily to me because this is what I'm supposed to do. And
You were
that
called to
realization,
this, and-
oh man,
yeah.
the realization has killed me.
Yeah.
But completing a trial, I think, has brought a lot of meaning back to Calagon.
That's good.
Arlyn, the fact that you, and I'm not rubbing it in or anything, the fact that
Go for
you're
it.
the only one that didn't.
And the fact that you're a loser.
No. You're the only one that didn't pass the trial.
Everybody
Is insane.
Wait. Javi, can we get full table cam?
wow.
No.
You know what? I'm the first one that said biggest loser right here.
You know
But
what?
I'm sure that's going to impact Arlyn though. Like,
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
We'll get there. 100%.
so it's
You
we've
let
all
them
ever since
wear.
we've left and been on this campaign, we've all not maybe done a 180,
Yeah.
but have completely changed direction of
I
what's
think we're
moral,
being
what's
reshaped to be those heroes that
Yeah.
will
this is-
essentially like reform the Bastions and
Yeah.
be in the same trajectory. Because
This-
we were pretty divided a lot of the times
Yeah.
up till now.
I think
Like,
even though it was a temporary down spike, I do completely agree. I definitely think this is something Cleave would have needed for his trajectory, because he was not invested at all in the idea of being a winner in any of these situations, other
Sure.
than that his friends are safe and everything.
Sure.
You know, like,
Yeah.
he didn't have to feel like a hero. If he failed trials, that would not have mattered until now. It's only because now he feels like I am just supposed to be a tool to be at their disposal, and that he and I both believe that this bastion was kind of meant for him.
yeah.
This is like his specialty. So when he failed the first one, he really felt like a loser. He was just like, I can't even do that for
Then
them.
he demolished two of them.
So,
Yeah.
I
that's
mean,
what
yeah,
he
let's
said,
get to it.
Come on, let's
So,
let's just touch on
after
that
going
weapon.
through-
And the
please.
weapon, yeah.
We
yeah.
kind of
So that
tiptoed around
was
it.
just that all that to say, he is truly. It would have originally been because he doesn't want a weapon, but now it's because he is truly just a servant to the other four horsemen. And if this seemed like something one of them can use, then that's for them. He just needs to garner resources and strength for the rest of you and be completely, I guess, selfless in that he doesn't even exist in his own mind anymore. It's just
Wow.
like, this is just.
Especially after it
adventure.
was so fresh. you
Yeah.
know?
That's
I think
dangerous.
that moment for Arlyn was pretty grand. I think just like discovering the abilities that he's been given, discovering the abilities of his race that doesn't exist, right? He's able to like surge lightning and electricity and storms and whatever things that he would have never even thought of. He'd never seen his dad do anything like that. He's never seen his mom do anything like that, right? And then getting a lightning javelin felt very
Providential.
confusing in his mind, because it felt so heroic. Like, it felt like this weapon was meant for me, right? But at the same time,
You had just taken your biggest L of all time.
I mean, we had like the trauma he had just like experienced
Yeah.
with everybody, right? And understanding that everybody is at an extremely low point. It's very clear to him, because he's very observant, and it's very clear to him that Cleave is going through something. That Cleave is like, well, I'm worthless now. He's made it, he voiced it himself, right? It's very clear that Calagon is like depressed at this point, losing Barry and all this
Suicidal,
stuff.
borderline.
Suicidal, borderline. Not only that, but like there's clearly a tension between Calagon and Arlyn that has little by little been building on and has not come to a full conversation.
Yeah, it has
yet.
not had any kind of like
It
full
has
outlet.
not. Yeah, starting from the dream in the storm.
Wow, yeah.
Where Calagon for the first time was informed that the power Arlyn yields belonged to him. That, I think, was a seed that has been growing and growing and growing, and then all of a sudden, good things happen to Arlyn, like, all the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's... He tries not to, but I think it's getting into Arlyn's head a little bit, which, again, preview to the trials, like, the biggest failure at the strongest moment, right, I think has a huge effect on him, right, because... only good has happened to Arlyn at this point.
Yeah.
This is his destiny. This is in his lineage.
I
This
know
is
how it
in
feels
all
to be
of that.
Calagon.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And so he has this grand weapon, and all of a sudden, you know, you're mourning death. You literally are mourning everything. You died. You're mourning yourself. You know what I mean?
I can't even go back home. My family wouldn't recognize me.
Yeah, like you're just not even the same person anymore. Right?
So the monkey won't recognize you. Pretty much, right?
You know what I mean? But Arlyn,
You're safe.
But Arlyn is untouched. Couple burns here and there, rest, back to normal. Untouched. Has a powerful new weapon. Basically, the bolt of Zeus. You know what I mean? Like, returns to my hand, like, super epic. But he's meant to lead these people. And, like, he feels like he's already doing a really bad job at it.
Yeah.
Right? And so this makes him feel really conflicted. Right? The fact that he's like, well, I'll hold on to this because I know that I have to be the protector. Especially at the team's low point. Right? But at the same time, it's like, but why good things keep happening to me?
Yeah.
And everybody else keeps going down, you know?
I think this even the playing field, this whole trial and session,
For sure.
Ziggurat, to where I think if or when we leave here, it's not going to be Arlyn's the leader, Cleave's the moral compass. We're
Yeah.
going to take everybody's opinion,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a group decision every
lose,
time.
That's a great point.
We lose
Yeah.
our own identity to encompass the identity of
To
the four
be
horsemen.
the
Yeah.
four horsemen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so-
That's good,
That is
bro.
pretty cool, right?
That's good.
It's a transformation.
No, it literally like
It is,
completely
yeah.
lost his identity.
Which is
Arlyn
very
losing his identity,
ironic.
Like,
That we are currently fighting the transformation elemental, when we ourselves are undergoing transformation.
This whole era, like, has been transformation for the group.
True.
Yeah.
Dang.
That is dope. What
The
a
transformation
boss, bro. Yes, transformation arc. That's it.
So we are fighting our own transformation.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
I think one of them actually said something about like having to die to transform or something like that. It was a mix of
Ether.
that. An ether, yeah.
Ether.
Okay, so
Yeah, you
let's
drowned
get
yourself.
back
Let's
to
get
that
into
for
the
a second.
ziggurat, bro.
So into the ziggurat, yeah, it's already pretty late now. After pushing past this absurdly heavy door, I'm gonna really hyper focus on one person for a second here. You guys got to see these mass carvings of these giant monsters all around. You got to see one specific form, technically two, of these large serpentine almost creatures with like spiny blade-like legs jutting out everywhere, almost like a millipedes, but more terrifying.
Which is saying something.
Ew.
And you guys were able to unlock the bastion, which, fun fact, originally there was a symbol of an elephant on the little platform button, and because of previous week's high-low buffalo, I decided that along with the ziggurats, you have to rise to new heights to get to the depths of power. The buffalo would be the thing that now resembles the weighted platform.
The high-low buffalo. That was great. I
So,
love that.
Little Easter egg for you guys there.
Random plug. I also work for Hilo. That's crazy. That's
That is funny. Now, I'm just gonna focus this on Joel. You got to see a lot of unique stuff that the other guys probably don't recognize, understand, and so we were just talking about before this insight check how much happened, and some of the guys were like, I don't know, has there been like that much that we really like need to talk about that we've missed? Is there?
there's been
And
so
Joel's like, are you crazy? I'm I can, of course,
Build the
read
intensity
stuff
here.
back off if you'd like, but Joel, tell us what you know and what you think.
Oh, man.
What's going on here?
Okay, all right. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not really gonna like tell everybody, but I will say.
You can say whatever you want. This is just free game. Whatever
All
you
right.
think is happening.
There was a list of people who have been previous Guardians, or at least wrote down that they were, and I recognize so much from there and some other stuff. So, you want me to just tell them what Piranha is? Like, I'm not gonna do all that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Up to you, yeah.
well, in any case, I mentioned before we play in a home game too. We haven't played in a few months, but this campaign exists in the same world as the home game that we were already playing before you guys ever approached us.
Yeah.
And so
Separate continent, same
separate
world.
continent, same world. Yeah.
Allura.
So, so where my adventuring party is from, we have battled with Piranha, and with oh gosh, wait, why am I? Syndra. We battled. So for those who don't know, we are based out of Claremont, Florida, and we have one of our players in the home game, my cousin Zach. He played a character named Xerxes of Claremont, and he thought it'd be funny if his character was just from Claremont. so Tristan
Spelled A-R-E.
right, yeah.
Claremont.
Not even.
So Tristan essentially put our hometown in this world. And so,
Oh yeah, I mapped it out as Claremont was previous to any major population, and so I turned it into a nation called the Mire, where it is largely swamp ground and the creatures largely resemble creatures that would be in a swamp.
Love
it
it.
was wild stuff. So,
It's insane.
Love it.
Anybody who knows anything about Claremont, Florida, knows that we have one landmark, one major landmark. It's on all the postcards.
Citrus Tower!
The Citrus Tower.
Except
And so in this world, there was a crazy wizard known as Syndra who had a tower, and Syndra's tower was looming over all of the
Does
This is such a meme, bro.
Does she celebrate Lighted Up Syndra?
Lighted up syndrome.
they did that later.
so yeah. In any
They
case,
lit it up with something.
Yep.
Syndra is a maniac.
Man.
What a character! I would love to believe that we will meet him one day on this stream because he's what a character. But he's just a mad wizard. My cousin's character, Xerxes of Claremont, was, you know how a lot of times a wizard, like classic wizards in old fairy tales, would turn people into frogs, and that was it. Like they were cursed forever, they were frogs now. This was the reverse. Xerxes of Claremont was once a frog, and Syndra just turned him into a man, and he's just a frog. That was his character. His character was just not really a guy.
No way.
Phenomenal. Yeah, that whole thing, insanity, and the fact that it bleeds so directly into all this is the funniest thing to me.
That's
It was
so
Two
wild.
completely
wild.
different worlds.
So in any case, that madman wizard had clearly another thing. He was a cleric, and the god that he worshipped is known. This is in real D&D lore, I believe.
D&D lore, yep.
Is known as Wastri. Wastri is a frog god, and he is the god of self-deception. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Self-deception, yeah.
So, it was a whole mess.
That was all very important information, believe it or not. Go ahead,
So-
Joel.
To this?
Wow. This.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So he worships the god of self-deception. So, and there were markers of that in what he had written on the thing. I don't remember what the exact wording was, but I know that all of it wasn't exactly true. But I understood that it was written by Syndra because he worships probably also the god of self-deception. So
Wow.
So some of the writings were untrue, is what you're saying?
yes,
Because they were self-deceived?
yes. So he convinced himself of it and then wrote it down.
Bro. How are we supposed to deal with that?
Yeah, there's layers of like what is happening on this wall, and I was just like, I know all of it.
Each bastion is more than a fortress.
Here we
Each
go.
is made up of 5 parts. Guardian, Key, Place of Power, Dreadnought, Bastion. Taking the key from behind the waterfall will pass on my power to a new Guardian, thus releasing this place's transformative power to what it once was. This is, in fact, guys, the Bastion of Transformation. As you experienced in your one-shot, each Bastion has an element to it and or a specific power. This is of Transformation. And so we see that continually. The power of this weapon cannot be taken by force, only freely given. Pass the trials and showcase your ability to command transformation, to claim it as your own and become the new guardian of the ziggurat, or to choose its successor wisely. The trials are not easy, nor are they fair. Don't expect them to be. Charybdis, crossed out, which, as we've discussed, is from Greek mythology, which is very similar to the appearance of Piranha in many ways.
And that was knowledge for me that just came from liking Epic the Musical a whole lot.
Crossed out to be replaced underneath that by Earthworm James.
Another reference I understood.
Crossed out, which is from an old Nintendo character, Earthworm Jim.
That we used to play, yeah.
Crossed out Piranha. Those names uniquely are in a very sloppy, very different handwriting than all the rest of this very neat handwriting on this wall. Yeah. Is one of very few that is still active. So, Piranha, as Joel knows,
is not a person that could have ever become a guardian. Piranha is, in fact, a... What is the word? You just said it on the thing. It is a...
Dreadnought.
Dreadnought, yes. That Syndra created. He crossbred and created a dreadnought.
Whoa.
So there's a whole mess of stuff that's happening. But I know one thing. Piranha didn't get up there and write its name. That's definitely not what happened. But
is
very likely...
Piranha the dreadnought? Probably not.
Possibly. It definitely Piranha in our game was many-legged and giant.
It was identical. That is Piranha for sure. However, there were two forms in the inscriptions around this bastion.
Interesting. So Piranha might have been part of that, but Piranha was not the guardian. That's not probably what happened.
Interesting.
Definitely didn't write its name up there.
Huh. Oh yeah. So just to kind of flesh this out just for that last bit here, it may not take well to anything other than its own kind. To have made it inside means you have shown that you're suited to continue, but proceed with great caution. Simply choose your trial, so on and so forth. Guardians bear a great responsibility. As such, only one will be allowed to enter each trial at a time. Overcome each as each is required to transform them into something greater within yourself. And it's signed off, the Green Guardian, Ardennis Wastri. And yet, that title is also in a sloppier, messier handwriting of the Green Guardian, Ardennis Wastri. And it says, P.S. Only kidding, I borrowed Piranha.
So there you go.
So maybe the dreadnought that powers this bastion is no, because there's still power here.
So one of two is missing.
One of two, maybe.
It was wildness.
Two dreadnoughts, maybe. I don't. What?
I'm so confused.
I'm so confused
So much just went down.
So absurd, bro.
Yeah, no, I was like everything he was. I was
P.S.
like,
only
what's
kidding.
happening?
I borrowed Piranha.
That would have been a great episode name too.
Yeah.
True.
P.S. Only kidding.
Piranha is the type of creature that, trust me, like, doesn't matter how high you get in
Dude.
any campaign.
Yes.
You don't want to face it. This is a creature of
We were like
my
level
own
12,
creation.
and it was like instant. Like coming near it, you just die. You just die.
Nice.
My character died against Piranha.
Huh.
I don't know. Rodrick level 20 would be pretty interesting with his rolls.
I'm very curious to see how this campaign continues, and if you guys face any dreadnoughts at any point, because there are quite a few written into the lore. So,
Wow.
yeah, with that, we hit
there's
each
at
of the
least
trials. Yeah.
10 bash.
Yep. So we hit each of the trials. Ether was up first. Arlyn got his shot.
Yeah.
Continued on, yet didn't continue where he wanted to.
Correct.
And then Cleave took that over. What'd you guys think? How was the Ether trial? I know that was
First
the
off-
most abstract, so thanks for dealing with me on that.
So out of all 4 trials, I have to say my favorites were Ether and Fire.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
I thought they were like intense.
Yeah, for sure. They were the
Like,
scariest
very-
ones.
Well, they were also.
up front.
Oh, remembered, they're also the only ones that you couldn't
That you weren't
survive.
supposed to be able to
You weren't
survive
supposed to
technically.
Arlyn did.
Or like it says like
By
return
cheating,
as, you know, and you were able to take on a new form. So you were able to bypass the perceived instruction.
Yeah. Arlyn walked out of there with my chest up in the air.
You had just leveled up, so I mean that was exciting for everyone, but
I was stronger. I had become Ether. I felt like I outsmarted as a character. I felt like I had outsmarted this trial because I became the material required to walk through the gate. I was like, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
I did it. Like I won, right?
That's tragic.
I had survived without being able to transform. Survived the pain of going through the lake. It was extremely confusing that first run.
yeah.
Extremely
That is again
confusing.
the most abstract one, so that one's
Yes.
scary. Hence why I gave a little bit of prep time with that one, and why it got stronger later on. And so I wanted to show a little bit of mercy, especially for the more like harsh trials.
Yeah.
The ones where it's like, oh yeah, you're not gonna get away from that. Whereas like say water, Joel unfortunately got to experience firsthand.
Got
It's much
pushed out in one
faster,
Yeah, man.
but not as deadly
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, I thought it was sick. The whole like ambiance, everything of that trial, I thought was awesome. I was, as a person, and I guess as a character, extremely upset because I felt like I bodied that trial. This elemental basically bowed to me, and I didn't even know. Right?
Yeah, it gave you its weakness, which Cleave later got to use a little bit more.
Handed me the weakness,
But you didn't realize.
But it was so abstract that it was so unclear, right?
Yeah.
What was
For
the
Arlyn to
So
know.
it
The
was
rock he
always
handed to
pulling
me.
these rocks in towards it. So while it was repulsing everything else, pushing it away from it, repelling it, its own form was the one thing that could hit it. So anything infused with ether would instead be attracted to the elemental. So rather than being pushed away and requiring checks, anything coming at it was made with advantage if it had been dipped into the river or was one of the stones that it was throwing out around it. And so it handed him one of these stones,
I commanded
which
it.
especially
What was
dealt
it?
higher damage.
It was
submit?
Submit. And it tossed him
I
a piece
thought
of
about
itself.
what word. It's only one word that I can use. What word can I use?
So something that made up its own being and was its weakness. It
Yes.
gave to
So
you.
if you
free.
would've-
Essentially, yes.
If you would have thrown the stone, it would have caused damage.
Oh, it would have
A lot of
like one
damage.
shot killed it basically.
Really?
Like,
Yes.
Yeah, that thing would have eviscerated.
So this is the stuff that pissed me off even more, right? Because I bodied that trial. The guy did not even take a step towards
Unfortunately,
me.
I would like to reread.
You
Become
know?
the form that which you see. That is not the end of the clause in full. To do so, you must destroy the form that is to take on what you must become. And it is clearly talking about different lives here and different forms and that which is before you throughout each of these
So again,
things.
word trickery.
Yeah. So there you did
Because
take it away that allowed you to
essentially-
bypass.
Arlyn did that.
Yeah.
He destroyed himself to become what he
Yeah.
saw. When I jumped in that river and my entire matter crumbled and came back together to become ether, I did very well that. But it was so much more specific than it seemed with the abstract
Yeah,
trial.
for sure.
Like it really felt like it was, some sort of wordplay, but it really was become the form you see by destroying basically what was.
Yeah.
Essentially.
For sure. So the
And-
idea was to have like forms of duality in each. So I don't know if you guys noticed this. Each trial is exactly as those little circles below you stated. They are both the greatest strengths and the greatest weaknesses to you if you choose to use them properly. And so within each trial, it was the thing that was going to kill you, or it was the thing that would allow you to succeed. So in the case of Ether, you had the river flowing through which you could bolster yourself, your own weapons and items, or you could take the rocks from the elemental itself and use them against it, and either way it would have made it basically a non-issue. Cleave in the Earth trial got to see a very, very similar thing, which after taking out a single golem, he took the head of one of the golems, hit it back to it, and insta-kills any one of them on a hit.
Well, I think I just missed though.
No, you hit.
Did I get one?
You hit one, yeah.
Okay.
So with each of those first 3, all you have to do is throw the head back at them, and they just die. So you get one free additional after the first.
Question regarding the trial.
Wow.
For Nick.
Mancala.
Nick learned and mastered.
Hey, wait, hold on. It still was the rule system of Mancala.
It really was.
It
and
still
there
was the rule
a
system
point
of Mancala. They go around. Literally, the only reason that I was like, oh, they're going around to
It's
get
also
into
the
other
rule
pit.
system of NASCAR. It's also the rule system of everything else
Well,
that goes
no.
in a dang circle.
They wouldn't have entered the pit for NASCAR. They would have just kept going in circles.
Is there? So I mean,
They
yeah,
do,
okay.
they
you
do
got
make pit stops. They do.
You got a
actually
dope
pit.
weapon
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
that,
you're
Joel.
right,
Is there anything
That's
else that
Christmas.
you guys feel that we need to touch on Ether?
I think
Yeah, dude.
Ether and walking out has been my biggest regret thus far. And I think
That is
Arlyn's
hard.
biggest regret thus far, especially
rough.
figuring it out and handing over all that information. He did that, sure, under like a leadership
I
role
feel
to
like your
try and like
downfall is
help.
cockiness.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
That's
Just
coming
like
from
thinking you already had
Rodrick.
it. Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
coming from
That's
Rodrick.
I feel like your downfall is looking at the creature that was there and thinking you could outsmart this.
That is true.
Yeah.
Thinking that
I like that.
that you
That
already
is
had it.
true.
Yeah.
being the leader could just walk away and not have to deal with what was in front of you, and that you would get the better for it, but then you ended up walking out of the trial.
This is the transformation, Bastion.
That
We're
is.
all growing.
I
whole
would say that
transformation
is.
arc.
We're all
Yep.
growing.
I would say that is. I would
That's
say that is.
awesome.
I had a
true.
question for Tristan actually.
Okay.
When these trials were created, did you have a specific horseman in mind for each
Better
of them?
believe I did. So actually, Joel knows full well that the Earth one was very specific to him in a fun reference. I thought for sure that Cleave. Look at the shirt he wears every week and stuff for that.
Yeah, I always
He's
wanted to
always
say
in his
Earth
earth
very
tones,
earthy.
always shaping Earth and doing all these earthy things. I thought for sure that Calagon was gonna go Ether
Because of his purple shirt?
because his character is Ether based. So even when I asked you guys about your affinities some time ago prior to the start of a session, he was like, oh, out of all of them, I would for sure be Ether, which is all gravity and force based, which is also exactly what Ether dragons are. They're all gravity based. And so he kept saying like, oh yeah, Ether, 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 Ether. And then going into the bastion, he was like, oh yeah, I would only take on like probably like Ether, maybe, and he'd like throw in another one. And then once it came down to it, he was like, I'm not touching Ether. I was like, no way.
Because it was confusing as heck.
So far we have 2 horsemen that originally did not select their intended
I
trials.
did expect you to hit fire, but I thought then that Arlyn would be water.
I thought I
given
was
the
fire.
heritage and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally thought I was fire.
So I
Yeah.
thought now
I read
what made
every
you
one of
think that you were
those,
fired?
and I thought
mean-
every single one is Cleave.
that,
You don't understand how much
That's
there
so
is
funny.
reason for that. There is a lot
there
of
was
reason
in
for
every
that.
wording. There was something. Sorry, I felt you were about to add something. I'll let you take it first, because then I'll point out.
Well, I mean,
whatever,
okay,
but-
what was with the Earth trial? You remember what was going on there?
On Earth
would've-
was just Mancala.
Yeah.
Right away, I was
I
just
would've
like, so,
killed
and
the
I
Earth
mentioned
trial.
it in the moment, but
So
I'll
what
say it
was
again.
the detail that you mentioned previously about that?
It was that Cleave he did have his parents growing up, but a really big influence in his upbringing was a lady named Old Mama Green. And Old Mama Green is not only just like the toughest barbarian lady in their whole, and she's like the elder of their tribe, but she also is the Mancala champion of Westmanshire. That is what she's known as. So, like, he's like, Mancala was a big part of his upbringing. It's in my backstory that I sent to Tristan, and then he puts that in the thing. I was like, oh, he built this for Cleave to do. And there was an ingredient like that in every single one of these plaques. Every time he read something, I was like, this is for Cleave. I'm supposed to do all these.
I do feel like I would have killed the trial if I didn't waste the first 3 movements.
Trying to figure out like how
Trying
to
to
play
figure out
Mancala.
what's
Yeah.
going on.
So much to that.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
throw in the final insult to injury here.
Please.
Nick, Manny, both of you guys, I kid you not, were one hit away from succeeding on the Earth trial.
Nice.
You didn't need to defeat every last one of them, but doing so unlocked the lower chamber where Joel was able to get that little item, which is in your inventory. I don't know if you've read that.
I have.
But so you guys wouldn't have gotten the bonus, but you would have succeeded had you
would
just
you have
stayed
obtained
put
the
one
mask?
more turn. Yeah.
Interesting.
So the thing
Nice.
is, I had 1 health, and I was not going to physically survive that trial.
Yep.
And Arlyn had to admit defeat. And just be like,
What, are you ready?
Just showing you guys.
Oh, okay.
So, just so you know.
and Arlyn had to just admit defeat and be like, I understand that I might be able to figure something out, but I might not even be able to live to figure it out.
Yeah.
If I just
is
hold
so
my
sad.
ground.
And
And if I get pushed out, I will lose the javelin.
Dang.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
yeah,
Yes.
and you had to go. You went to retrieve it. That was your move.
I said, nope, I'm stepping out, and I stepped out.
See, that was super respectable. But also, I wanted to throw love for, I don't know if he said it on stream or not, but for what Nick's stance was on this.
I loved that. I loved
Remember
it.
what
And
you
it
said
was the
about
same as going
where
into
you
the
were at
ziggurat.
mentally when you were coming down on your HP and they were all coming towards you?
No, remind me.
I think it's the opposite of Arlyn.
It was the
You
exact
would
opposite.
have fought to the death.
Yeah.
You would have let them kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they didn't push you out.
Had you
Yeah, Nick
survived
said that. He was
or
just
had you
like-
maintained your place in that push,
Yeah.
I truly think that like you'd have just at least won, and you'd have just woken up unconscious, or you'd have woken up after being unconscious, and you would have still passed with the mask on the other side.
That would have been some interesting character growth right there.
I was really excited.
Talk about
for that
destiny,
prospect.
right?
That
That's
was
crazy.
That would have
Wow.
been cool.
So that's if he had passed the strength check, but then just been knocked out. Just
Yeah.
that's pretty sick.
So he could have passed the trial still, depending. But
What's it called? I was gonna say, speaking of character growth, there's a little bit more character growth that happened to Rodrick inside of the ziggurat. When he passed when he was doing the fire trial. First off, I gotta commend Tristan for creating these trials that, like, at least the Earth one did have like a set plan in mind, but some of these other trials, namely the more difficult ones, like the fire one, was random. Like it would set it in the explanation.
Yeah.
Fire is random, all these different things. But like genuinely, Rodrick did get to a point that he's like, I have no idea what to do. Like I literally have no idea. So I'm just gonna hit things and see where it goes. And somehow it ended up working out for him because that's what happens to Rodrick, except for when Cleave is involved. But I will say thank you to everybody for helping me come up with the ideas to like put the ingate and the thing and stuff like that.
Joel was talking about like curving out the tails and stuff when it was melting, and I was like, yeah, there you go.
Super great ideas, honestly, because I was at a loss for what I was supposed to do. The mask falling, since it's not like we knew that masks were gonna fall. Like we didn't know coming into this what we were gonna get.
Right.
So at this point, the mask falling for Rodrick felt like fate. It felt like the final seal of you've been disfigured, and now you can fully cover yourself.
Wow.
So and in the covering, it's a golden salamander mask. It's
Yeah.
just as gaudy as Rodrick is.
For sure.
So I think in securing the mask, he sealed this part of his new identity, where a big focus that I'm choosing stat-wise for him as a bard is that I used to make a lot of rolls and a lot of my decisions based off performance and persuasion, as opposed to now with this new mask, I'm going to make a lot of my decisions and rolls off of intimidation and deception.
Wow.
So the opposite side of charisma.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's the big change that happened to Rodrick within the ziggurat. And I wanted to make note of one more thing for when we fell down into the lower levels and we went to fight. It's still very fresh what happened and the fire and everything like that. I think Rodrick we'll see how he ends up growing out of that. The fact that Cleave was the monkey is the only reason Rodrick spared him from the fire damage.
Elaborate, please.
Because Rodrick didn't even know that was Cleave.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, it's that deep.
That's dope.
Wow.
Because why not let him burn a little bit?
Yeah, that would have been
Sheesh.
deserved. Yeah.
We might
He's
have
the
problems.
reason
So-
Rodrick burned.
We
With
might have
that
problems,
trial,
dude.
there were a few fun bits for me. Yeah, the offset of each of the flames was entirely random. We were just rolling to see, like, all right, which one goes off.
Dude, when Nick started rolling,
And I
it was like,
love
I was
that.
like, I'm not, how do I win? There's no way.
But
It's you versus the dice. That's
Joel,
literally
you
it.
had one of the best methods of, like, use it all to your advantage. Use what's there. Use the elements. The adamantine was definitely part of it. Technically speaking, could have melted away and still used a chunk towards another and sealed a second thing. But otherwise, yeah, they kept growing, and you could have still manipulated them and just literally just positioned them all to not even face those basins. Another option was that the fires were enough to ignite the basins themselves or to melt away the barrels. Had you pre-placed each of the barrels prior to them going off, it would have melted the outside.
So I came up with that idea already, but it was too late. I was running out of barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every action was a barrel.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Super
Is
scary.
once the fire already reached and passed, was crossing, there's
Yeah.
nothing I could do. I set one barrel here and it's gonna get eliminated. I set
It's
one
a
barrel here, it's
scary
gonna
one.
get like
I
there's
was so scared for you during that trial, man.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, no, don't blame me.
I
Blame
think
Nick.
all of us,
Take that die.
right,
all of us
sure.
were gripping at our
That was-
seats
yeah, that
that
was
whole
crazy.
But
trial.
thankfully I did build my level 3 character for that trial.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And everything so far that I have added has fallen so perfectly to the new character of Rodrick. I mean, the only
cool.
reason I made it out was Zephyr Strike. I added that.
yeah, that's been amazing.
For level 3. That has been
yeah.
that has
That's
been
been
incredible.
iconic.
And mind you, I built the character and then I changed the character and then I built the character and then I changed the character
Yeah.
like 3 times because I was like, no, this isn't gonna work for the trial. Like while everybody was doing the trials, I would constantly be changing my character build because I'm like, I don't think this would work for it. But the fact that I ended up creating him more elemental to be able to withstand all that fire damage, it makes sense because now he's a crispy little potato chip.
Yeah, bro.
So and we saw now in this last fight the things he's able to do. I mean, the fact he's able to absorb elements, the
Into
fact that
his scars.
the fact that he is able to push his own resistance into other people through his scars as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it, and then
good
you
stuff.
guys haven't even seen the last thing, which I was wondering if I should save it for later, if I should just announce it now on Insight Check. It's
how I
not gotten
feel.
to that point
Roll
yet.
a die. See what you should do.
there you
Oh.
go. 50-50,
10
right?
and up, tell us. 10 and under. I guess me to beat it. I don't know.
8.
That's
All right,
that.
don't tell us.
Nope.
Not happening, folks. Sorry.
Okay.
Secret.
Nice try, y'all. All right. Well, yeah, with that, we didn't really talk about the end of the Earth trial, despite all of the attempts. This was the most difficult, apparently, even though it was sort of intended to be like the easiest one in a sense.
Arlyn struggled.
Yeah, I
Arlyn
felt so bad. You're like, oh yeah, I got this.
realized how bad my range is.
Yeah.
I truly realized. I was
That
like,
was
there's
rough.
nothing I can do here.
Yeah, he just
There's
sat and
nothing.
watched them as they marched on, just like,
Like, best I can do is try to tank them out, but there's no tanking these
no
things.
way.
Yeah.
Whereas Cleave just obliterated.
I mean, we got to experience a couple different
so
things from
made for
Cleave that
Yeah.
we didn't know.
Yeah.
The column of fire. What in the world is this?
Dude, the
Exodus?
spear, the spear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it was
horrifying.
Fire.
No, it was nuts. Yeah,
It's
that,
just
that,
melted
that, that
the
ability
trial.
is just like built for that. First of all,
Crazy.
and it's still up in the air whether or not he wants. I know he doesn't want to like. He doesn't want to be showy to the rest of them. He doesn't want to put the spotlight on himself. But right now we're in a situation where it would be a really good time for that, and our
Survival
survival
right now,
yeah, our
really.
survival is relying on it. And it's like so that's gonna be kind of a coin toss next week too. Man, no, actually, there's a lot of stuff that we're not gonna probably be able to touch this week. That's just all. I just wanted to ask stuff about the masks and the way that some of the ziggurat works.
Do you think we can have some questions for the beginning of next session to ask?
I
As
think
like
that
an
could be
add-on?
fun. But I mean, if you guys have any immediately that you want to just machine gun out, I'll definitely
you
answer.
wrote
have
with
stuff
some
about
down.
what we're talking about.
Well,
that I'm
one of my
still on- I haven't
questions
touched.
that I think is a pretty easy, concise answer is all of the abilities that work based off of time. do they work within the ziggurat time or do they work on real time?
Which abilities are you talking about?
So
here?
like the
Things that
abilities
last
of,
for an hour.
for example, him changing shape.
Yeah.
Time is relative to the person within. The ziggurat does have an aspect of changing time to enclose within it. There are certain arcane structures within this world, obviously the bastions being some of them, which can separate realities. In essence, it almost acts like a pocket dimension.
Okay, but all of our abilities are still subject to our person
Exactly.
within that pocket dimension. Interesting.
I think I won't ask a lot of the logistical stuff with the masks because we'll see it as we try. I would rather just fail. I think that's pretty fun.
I'm still
okay.
curious about the mask of the water mask. I don't know what it does.
Yeah.
And he
we
just
don't know
put
about
it
the
on.
water or the earth
The earth,
because
I
he
can't
can't
wear it.
even wear it.
Yeah. We don't know about the
It's just
earth.
there.
And I guarantee you, if it was handed to Arlyn, he probably wouldn't put it on.
Wow.
The water mask just helps me swim faster, helps me
A pity
not
mask?
be
Really?
cold.
Nah.
Right?
Not
What
Arlyn.
else does it do? I think
That'd be
that's adds 10
embarrassing.
hit points, which is the only reason why I'm alive right now.
Oh yeah. Scary.
What?
I mean,
He gets 10 hit points.
The masks grant 10 temporary
Yes.
hit points.
yeah.
In addition to a whole slew of benefits relating to that element.
But the big thing is all the slew of things that they do stop after you run out of just the first 10 hit points.
Correct.
Right? That's all that stuff goes away if you just lose 10 HP.
Wait.
Yeah. Can't
does
be
it?
frozen.
No,
immune to
Let me
cold
double
damage.
check.
You still have it
That might
until
have been
death.
the original.
The only
That's
way
how
they
mine's
I
worded.
think,
Let me see.
I think the mask stores the
It
hit
doesn't
points.
disappear if you lose the 10 hit points. It completely gets destroyed if you drop to 0.
It just
But
can't
it says
be
as long
taken
as you
off.
have these 10
Well,
temporary hit points,
okay.
you can also do the following other things. That's what mine says.
Yeah, while you have the temporary health, you also gain the following abilities. So yeah,
But-
you
so
only
here's the
maintain
thing.
those qualities for that duration, and then you go back to yourself, but still masked. You still have the form.
Okay.
So
But
if
none of
we
the
lose
abilities.
the temporary hit points and only have our hit points, the mask can't be taken off and we don't have the effects?
Correct.
So if we lose the temporary hit points, so once we lose the temp hit points, all of the buffs that the mask give us go away.
Yes.
Right.
But we
And
still can't take
question.
the mask off.
What takes damage first?
fine for me.
Your health
The
or
temporary.
the temporary hit
Yeah,
points?
temp hit
temporary
points
hit
always
points.
take damage first.
Is there any way to regain those hit points? Those temporary hit points?
As Nick
I
has
did.
just learned,
Yep.
yes, by standing within his blue little element.
I only gained one, but I did.
Interesting.
So you gain 1 health per turn standing directly on your pedestal
Do I get
of
HP
temporary.
from
One
there?
temporary. One of that temporary health back.
Gotcha.
So I don't get Earth HP because I landed in the Earth one, but I was wearing the Ether mask.
You do not. No.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Rapid fire. What else?
What else you
do we
got? Yeah.
When we leave, can we take them off? We're not gonna be able to interact with the whole world
Nope.
like this.
No.
Only death, right?
By
Yep.
dying. Yeah, that is.
Mask cannot be removed except by death. If you are reduced to 0 hit points, the mask shatters into particulate and dissipates, returning you to your original form at 1 hit point.
And where does the mask go?
So technically speaking, you
Dissipates.
don't die in full. It is the end of that life, and you are
Which
back
is
with 1 hit point.
A big one of my notes from one of the plaques that I'm not sure if I'm gonna bring up yet because I haven't got to roleplay it with you guys yet. I should have still roleplayed it harder in the moment. I just said it, but when I create characters, usually I will start with one core premise and then build around that. And usually the core premise is a flaw. That's like my favorite thing to do. So I start there. So in this case, I started with my character premise, which is a flaw, and then what I built around it was from what Tristan had told us about the world. So Tristan told us about how there was a big dragon relocation and whatnot, and I was like, okay, well, my core premise was a druid. And I'll tell you what the premise is in a second. So I was like, if the whole thing is relocating giant lizard monsters, I'm like, that's the crocodile hunter right there. Particularly because I wanted his voice to be based off of my favorite Lord of the Rings character, just like the one orc that goes, yeah, okay, we have some meats. So I love that guy. So I was like, oh, he's Australian. I'm like, this guy's the crocodile hunter. This is perfect. So that all kind of got built on top of what was the original concept, which I write these all the time, just like flaws that are counterintuitive to the build. So one of my first ones was just like a wizard with a stutter. and I love that character. His name is Palston of
Vocal semantics are terrible.
And so he
for
can't, so he can't get out his spells in the same turn that he starts them if they have a verbal component to them.
Oh no!
Because he has a stutter. So,
no!
so I really enjoy that.
Cleave is a little different.
To cast the spell.
So Cleave's concept was that
It's so wild.
a bard with stage fright was another one. A barbarian who had taken years of anger management classes and he doesn't rage.
Oh no!
And
the worst builds ever.
So that's Cleave for you.
So Cleave's concept was that a druid should be like an amazing tank because you just have like an infinite store of HP.
Yeah.
So I was like, what if when this druid took an animal form and was reduced to HP, he truly experienced death as that animal. He just felt that his life as what was he, like a chimpanzee this time? Had ended.
Orangutan.
And he was an orangutan when he died the first time?
Yeah.
So he felt what it would
was
be
that
like
one?
to be
Oh, no,
an
that one was
orangutan who died.
That one was, yeah.
And so when he hit the floor at the bottom, he was just... He didn't know what to do. He was just, I really just experienced death. Not like when I was knocked out before. I experienced death. That orangutan's life ended. And I took that from this hypothetical, hopefully, orangutan. Like, am I turning into real animals? It was just like, he's processing like all this stuff.
Sorry, I will say, yeah, you're like current orangutan. You were probably a chimp.
I think I was a chimp
gorilla
that
or
time.
something,
Yeah.
But
So...
Wow.
So that's the concept for Cleave at its very core, which is why, because I had sent that information to Tristan. So I wrapped the Crocodile Hunter stuff was me adding Tristan lore to my stuff. That was Tristan adding my lore to his world, where could you read the Ether stuff again?
Ether specifically, let me see.
Based on the information I just gave.
We got a few.
Transformation.
Those weak enough to give up must first take on another life or give up their own and return as dust. And then become the form of that which you see. To do so, you must destroy the form that is to take on what you must become. Right. So yeah, there was.
But it was
that
to take on
aspect
another
of
life to give that life away. So I knew, because I had told Tristan that was the concept of my build. I was like, this was built for me because
he could do that.
I could take on another life and end that life instead, which is how I narrated Druid's work in this world, basically.
And the reason that works within the confines of the ziggurat is because it is intended for those with transformation powers.
Right.
And so the idea is you can enter, take a different form, and exit. Nobody else can.
Yeah, I was just hearing all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh.
It's like Cleave is like the embodiment of transformation. Like, Ether, Cleave.
Yeah.
But that's why I laid down there for like an hour after he went through the river, and he had fully reached 0 HP and was just sitting there as Cleave. It was just like, I remember saying like he was like he cries, he hyperventilates, he throws up, and he just didn't know what to do. He's just like, I died, and so now he's even more, because at least it wasn't his life in a sense that he lost in that moment. So his sense of I'm so sorry, Rodrick, has even increased now. It's just like I did that to him with his life.
Wow. Wow.
It's been it's deep.
Yikes.
And
so, I guess we'll start wrapping up here, but with Nick, congratulations with Calagon on also truly obliterating an otherwise like untouchable foe, and also getting the rewards out of the water trial.
Legit.
That was great.
Like for a second, you were about to give up. We were like, this
Again.
is it.
Second time I was about to give up.
But like, you bodied that trial.
So that one was a more
I got pretty
obvious
lucky.
weakness, where that thing was like, I'm not touching that water.
No, you didn't
crazy?
get lucky.
Not touching the ice.
You aimed for the bridge. You did it on purpose.
That was awesome,
Once
dude.
I realized that he wasn't moving, it was easy.
Impervious to ice.
Figuring
and
out how to avoid him was the hard part, and obviously you helped with that.
Know when to fight, which you did. You got to a point outside of when everything was going on. When to freeze, which you did.
So jump
you
in the water
stayed
and
put where
freeze.
you were, and you froze the elemental.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So it was a twofold riddle kind of roped into that bit of stay away from it, stay where you are, and just freeze it. Those are its two weaknesses. If you want to pass that trial, you have to freeze it. and know when to carve your own path. You didn't have to fight the elemental at all, and carving your own path is the only way to get to the item, as well as to
you
just
did, you built a
bypass
bridge.
the elemental in full.
Yeah, you literally
You
built a bridge of
literally
ice.
carved your own path.
So
too.
you
That's the
did
thing.
every
have to
single
carve it
one
to
of
make it
them
happen, yeah,
just
true.
as the trial had requested.
Yeah, it's almost like it was perfect.
Hence, Calagon is perfectly worthy to have overcome the water trial within the
Ironic.
bastion.
Once a fear, now conquered its element.
That is true. Oh my
Same
goodness,
with
you're right. I
Rodrick.
didn't
Same with
realize
you. Yeah,
you
same
have
with you.
that you had such a big water fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as like dramatic
guys
as
killed
yours.
Yeah.
Fire fear, but yeah, definitely.
Arlen's only getting fears from disappointment. Just like,
Oh, no.
I hate gravity.
All right,
and
I'll
Earth.
put the stamp on it. So yeah, Arlyn, yeah. He is going through it, and I think the longer that he is waiting outside, he probably feels a sense of pride knowing that it's very likely little motions and changes that he's observing that the guy's passed the trials, right? So he's gonna have a sense of pride in that sense, but if he felt like he was unfit to be the leader of the Four Horsemen, this most definitely is going to bring him down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the constant wins, like the weapons, and like all of a sudden now I have, you know, something else, and something else pops up, and I have lightning powers, and I can turn into a lightning bolt, and I save Rodrick's life, and like all this crazy stuff, you know, when he was falling, like gave him this like a little bit of like a hero bolster, you know
got
what I
that
mean?
complex now, yeah.
A little hero complex, right? I think also one of his first humblings was fighting that orc.
Oh, the ogre?
Was it
the
an
big
ogre?
one at
no, not the ogre. In the desert
Coltron.
sands. Yes, getting
Yeah.
bodied by that guy.
Yeah, he was
Personally, but honestly, like, I don't think that shook him that much. I don't think it shook him that much. This feeling like, you know, we're called to beat this bastion, right? And failing, it's shaking him a little bit. And I think the longer he's waiting, the more probably angry at himself he's going to become.
I'm curious as to what's going to happen once we actually defeat the transformation elemental. Like, will the ziggurat transform too? And what will happen of Arlyn being on the outside of it?
I don't know, Tristan.
Will
He's
he
dead.
fall?
That's it, guys.
Will he fall to the quicksand? Will he be no more?
What was the
Like a trash
quicksand?
compactor?
So each of those changes was something that occurred during each of the trials being overcome.
Okay, that's what I figured.
So,
afterwards. Yeah.
water, he didn't have as much struggle with, and so you got to see the water rise below the sands and then slowly trickle back down elsewhere. Whereas the ether is what froze it in place and kept it where it was.
And yeah, got it. That makes
So-
sense. And then of course the puff of smoke for fire.
Yep.
Can we have
So-
a final statement before we close this off?
What you got?
Now that we have all this insight on the trials, which trial do we feel was like the best fit for our characters?
Fire.
Well,
I think fire still, for
Okay.
sure.
I know Tristan says Earth, but I mean Ether, but I still think I would have bodied Earth if I knew
I think you would have too.
what was happening.
from the
because
get-go.
I'm all range.
Yeah.
I could fire breath if they get close.
your force breath would have auto
Yeah.
hit the elemental for the record.
Okay, well,
Would have what? Would have hit the
Yeah.
elemental?
well, maybe I don't know, maybe Ether, but I feel like I would have bodied Earth.
Well, your force breath is a cone, right? Mm-hmm. So it would have hit
Well, that's still pretty good.
multiple.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
he
saying.
had a
I would
few
have been able to
things to-
range the Earth ones, and then.
Correct.
But yeah, I still think Earth, but yeah, Elemental makes sense, I guess, or Ether
Yeah.
makes
No,
sense.
both are great. It
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily that I made those trials for you guys. I just figured after creating them, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably where they'll end up. Like in large part.
I think Earth makes most sense for me because I don't get hit. I get a chance to hit a bunch, until the end.
What about
Yeah,
you?
but does it make the most sense though? After
I don't know.
Cleave went through
I
it.
feel like I'm the most ranged.
He just didn't know what to do at
Correct.
first.
I do agree. If
Yeah.
we had known from the get go, you would have
Yeah, it would have
destroyed
been
that trial.
What about you, Cleave?
Cleave?
All of them.
It really does feel like all of them. I guess because I ate Earth so fast, I'll say Earth. But
Yeah.
it really does feel like all of them. Like I was just specifically built for those specific tasks. Even the fire one is just like I had already prepared Create or Destroy Water. I always had Shape Water, so I could have moved the whole gallons of water at any time and just like put them on. It was just like all of it. I felt like I was specifically made to do.
That's awesome. I love that because you are the transformation guy, and within my world, those are the 4 elements that make up transformation. And each, there was that little excerpt on each one that's like the whatever that binds us, the heat within us, the whatever it is. And so it's like, the fire within our hearts or something. And so it's just like, okay, each of those has an aspect of that change, but all of it is what you were just kind of like raised into. So that's perfect. Super cool. All right,
So,
anything else we have
for
on that?
me, although I still feel like I bodied Ether, I had to get creative, and I got real lucky with the command spell.
That's a big
Like
one.
the command spell was goated in that.
That was pretty cool.
Trial.
That was pretty darn cool.
If it wasn't for that, it would have been tough. It would have been really tough. I think I would have mopped the water trial.
Yeah, it even came with armor.
Mopped, bro.
Oh.
It even came with armor, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. And not only that, I would have been able to pass him so fast.
Yeah, he was just lightning right there.
I literally would just right through him as a lightning bolt, just ran
Create your own
and
path.
destroyed it, grabbed the mask, bye.
Yeah.
Like that's it. So, hey, the only one you didn't have to kill the thing to actually pass.
Well, you could have actually done it that way. Yeah.
So I kind of treated Ether like the water trial, but that didn't work. So yeah, that I think would have been probably the most fit, the water trial for Arlyn. So, any final thoughts?
Very cool.
I still think if we find some questions to ask, that maybe we designate a little bit of time in the
For sure,
beginning
during the
of
announcements
absolutely.
or something.
before
Yeah, we'll
the
give a
session
little
starts.
Q&A at the very start of next session.
Because the only
could be a
reason
ton
why
of
we're
fun.
not continuing the go is time right now.
Yes,
Because we can
I
talk
know.
for another
I
20,
know.
30 minutes.
Yeah, I
about
still have more notes.
Can we
everything,
do
so-
like one very quick one though that Spars asked last week?
What you
Okay.
got?
It's a very quick one, doesn't need a lot of thinking. We leveled up to level 3. What are our subclasses?
I think I got mine at 2.
Was it
But-
a 2?
For me, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's
so I got
always
mine
2
at
or
3.
3.
So I'm
And
a
then he
paladin.
didn't. Oh wait, you have now?
I got mine at 2.
Okay.
My subclass
Well,
at 2.
Thank God.
Which is now
because-
though. You got your 2 at 3, right?
Hold up, let me go.
Thank
to
God,
my
'cause
Because
thing.
you
multi-classed.
multiclassed at 2.
Yeah.
So you only now got.
Hold up, my
Level 2 subclass then, okay.
So my subclass as a paladin is I am a Oath of Vengeance paladin. And so I have a couple different spells and things like that it came with. It just has a lot to do with my backstory, and I'm able to play into it that way. Because ultimately, his main goal is still to defeat that dragon and find Trident at the end of the day, So, and especially Oath of Vengeance, anybody who gets in the way of the 4 Horsemen after the experience of the explosion.
Yeah, this is perfect. Yes, we're ready to now for sure.
Very chaotic neutral while everyone's looking for their subclasses. Very chaotic neutral now.
Abjuration is mine, right? That's
Oh, yeah.
subclass.
Yep.
Yeah.
Abjuration.
I picked
Abjuration wizard.
Abjuration.
Which is
I think
awesome.
when he realized
That's
you were
like what-
Abjuration is when he asked.
Actually, I think
He
I
was like,
get.
Abjuration wizard, dope. What's
Yeah.
everyone's subclasses?
Do I get my subclass at 3? I
This guy,
think I
right?
get my
It's
subclass
possible.
at 3. Yeah, I
Okay,
don't have my
so you're still
subclass
not
yet.
there yet.
He's still
Wow.
wild.
So
His
he
subclass
multi-classed.
is
So
multi-class.
he's a little bit behind on that.
Yeah,
I
I
like
multi-class
Abjuration.
from level 2.
I like Abjuration a lot as a wizard because I can hit, I can kind of protect, I can, I like,
yeah,
I
what's
like
your
that.
It's cool.
What's your infinity thing that you can do? When you get your subclass as a wizard, there's like some kind of passive ability you can always do.
Oh, his is the shield you got to see.
Yeah, the reaction?
Oh, that wasn't just the shield spell. That was like actually.
No,
like,
that's level 1 spell.
Yeah, so
Or
with
level
the shield,
2,
there's a
right?
second layer of shielding that he
That,
gets. Yeah.
yes, yes,
So if
yes.
you remember, yeah,
Where you had
there's
the
AC
HP or
and
whatever,
HP
The
buff now.
arcane ward.
Yes,
Yeah.
arcane ward.
Yeah,
Arcane ward.
arcane
That's
ward
dope.
comes with that. Yeah,
I
well,
love wizards for that.
Yeah,
And honestly, I
helps
think that's
'cause
my
I'm
favorite.
a low, I don't have much hit points, so as much as I can protect myself, on top
Super
of
cool.
dealing damage, that's why I like abjuration a lot.
I did my first character ever. The first time I started playing this like 10 years ago was a druid. It's my favorite forever. And that time I picked Circle of the Land, and I've regretted it ever since. I wanted to be a Circle of the Moon for so long. So as soon as I hit level 2, I did that. And this guy, and for those of you who don't know, Circle of the Moon makes you really good at transforming into animals and stuff. It's like it's specifically the transformation one. And as soon as you take it at level 2, through the roof. Cleave became so busted so fast, and I was like, I can't use that fast.
So sick.
But I went from essentially having like 8 HP, or I had 11 HP, to a potential of like 87.
Yeah,
It was
from
like-
transformations.
It was so unreal.
It's pretty broken.
So yeah, that's where I went.
Alrighty.
Yet he's still not the tank.
No, that's what
My
I was gonna
choice.
say. So anytime I reach 0 HP as an animal, I will basically roll one of these whims of fate to see if he is too. That's gone. If he's too. What's the word when you're hurt in your emotions? We've all been using it all night. Traumatized.
Traumatized.
If he's too traumatized to even take his next turn,
Oh,
that's where he's
no.
at. So he's gonna be a very ineffective tank. So sorry.
Lovely. Lovely.
Can't wait.
Incredible. Alrighty. Well, with whatever other questions we get asked throughout the week, we will definitely try to compile a brief listing, try to answer as many as we can on stream next week. But the 4 horsemen are unfortunately currently cornered by a massive transformation elemental.
No, the elemental's
of 4
cornered by
different
the
elements.
4 horsemen.
I do
Thank you
feel
very
that
much.
So, I'm very curious to
I
see
let
where that
into a
picks
trap.
up. But we will get to find that out 1 week from today, as we are instead going to kick off a brief divine inspiration for the night, as there's nothing still recorded. But let's just at least bring up the verse, and we can still discuss more next week on even that.
The handle should be the other way.
Where are we at? Are we at the 6th commandment currently?
Yes.
That's why I was at the outlets.
Okay. So.
I don't like it.
Ah.
Oh, the art? Yeah, the art's
Well,
cool. Yeah.
this one's a good one for the 4 horsemen. Anybody else find it?
Yep.
You want to read it out for us?
You shall not murder.
I mean,
There you
that's
have
a
it,
pretty
kids.
straightforward one.
All right. Have a great night, guys. I'm just kidding.
That's almost a cool
Actually,
way to end it.
something to talk about you shall not murder would be the differentiation between the word murder and the word kill.
Huge.
So
That's a good one.
Yeah.
a lot of people conflate the word murder with when people go to war and as if they are actively murdering somebody. But actually, if we look up the definitions of the word murder versus kill, they are different.
And I think this is still accurate even in like the Hebrew. It's not like it's just an English thing.
My computer's
very
not
important.
working at all. Murder versus kill.
So yeah, for me, I always think of the government at large, because it's Paul, I believe, says the government does not bear the sword in vain, in that they have the right to kill to some extent, and that
Really?
to keep peace, there is an era of like, yeah, they could very well take my life if I do the wrong thing. So like, you got to keep everyone in order, right? To some extent, it's like the world would be chaos without such limiters, and so like to some extent, power does often end there.
Yeah, so I have here the definition of killing is a broad term that simply means causing the death of another living being. So it encompasses both intentional and unintentional deaths. And then murder is a specific type of unlawful killing, where one human being intentionally causes the death of another human being, and it involves malice aforethought. So virtually all murders are killings, but not all killings are murders.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's something that, because a lot of people will take that commandment and they'll compare it to the things that happened in the Old Testament, where God you know, for example, when they went out to drive out the Canaanites and stuff, and everyone's like, well, they're going and they're killing all these people.
Yeah, they're not listening to their own. No.
But there can be a justified killing. There's no justified murder, but there can be a justified killing. And where does justification come from? The one who determines what is just, and the one who determines what is moral, and that is from God.
Yeah.
So in all those instances where God has commanded the army of Israel in the Old Testament to go forth and kill, it was not murder.
Yeah.
No.
That's just my 2 cents.
And a
on
big part of, to tie into what both of you said, a big part of what a lot of the laws had to do with, but especially this one, and there's a lot of scripture we could back this up with, but has to do with your place and what you're commanded to do, right? So everybody doesn't necessarily have the same commandments in some ways. And to use this one as an example, there are governing authorities which God basically says He ordains all of them, even the bad ones. That's the power you're supposed to give to Caesar what is Caesar, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah,
so
just to obey to some extent.
Right? No, it doesn't mean they're
Doesn't
God.
mean they are good.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean everything.
exactly.
But
It just means
honor
that
them.
that's their place, and they're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So they're supposed to govern. Governments are supposed to govern. That's all that it means. And part of that does have to do with waging war and stuff like that. It has to do with what is lawful based on their choice. They have that ability to choose that. I want to actually just so I'm going to keep addressing how it starts with love God and ends with love people. This is our first step all the way into the people domain. But it's still a range. It's still a spectrum here. And I think that this has to do, as long as we're talking about your place, I think this has to do with overstepping your place, right? This is first and foremost, it can be the government's domain, but it's first and foremost God's domain. It is not a sin ever when God kills.
no.
When God
This is only
has
referred
the
to
keys
as the
life and
first death. So biblically,
Right.
people reference eternal judgment and hell and all that as the second death.
Yeah.
So it's we're all gonna die here. That's fine. Okay, it happens. But then you can live forever with God and be forever happy. But there is an optional second death. That's not so pleasant.
Yeah. And the reason that the Bible says, and especially in the Old Testament, when it's laying down the law, you shouldn't murder, and specifically it says don't take vengeance. When it says that, it says vengeance is mine, says the Lord. That's what you're really doing. You're overstepping your boundaries into God's domain when you take vengeance. That's what I was getting at.
Well, that sucks for Arlyn.
The
'Cause I took an oath of vengeance.
Not yours.
That is
Sorry.
relevant. Wow.
I'm Batman.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I'd say that about sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
Beautifully
great.
said. We're excited to see not only hear the questions for next week, but you guys are doing very well going this far into the Bastion. So I'm curious to see the progress made next week where we do get a full-length session and see just how far we can make it. But until then, we love you guys.
Amen.
Amen.
I love you. Amen.